In this video, we're breaking down 2 hours of Demon Slayer facts to fall asleep to, so let's get into it. First up, we have sun breathing, the original style that every other technique comes from. Sun breathing is the original style, and all others come from it. Sun breathing stands as the original fighting technique in the world of Demon Slayer. Every other breathing style that exists today traces its roots back to this single technique. The man who created it was named Yoriichi Tsugikuni, and he lived approximately 500 years ago during Japan's Sengoku era. This period in Japanese history was marked by constant warfare and conflict, making it an appropriate time for a revolutionary fighting technique to emerge. Yoriichi invented sun breathing as a way to combat demons who were terrorizing humanity during this period. The technique would change everything about how humans fought against demons. Before sun breathing existed, humans had virtually no chance against demons. Demons possess superhuman strength, incredible speed, and the ability to regenerate from almost any wound. A demon could lose an arm and simply grow it back within seconds. They could heal from stab wounds, slashes, and even survive being torn apart. For roughly 500 years after the first demon appeared, humans were nothing more than prey. Demon slayers existed during this time, but they fought at a massive disadvantage. Their swords could wound demons, but demons would just heal. Their physical abilities paled in comparison to what demons could do. The war between humans and demons was completely one-sided, with demons winning almost every encounter. Humans needed something that could level the playing field. They needed a technique that could enhance their natural abilities to match demonic power. That technique came in the form of sun breathing. Yoriichi Tsugikuni was born different from other humans. His mother noticed this difference immediately after his birth. The infant had bright red hair, maroon eyes, and unusual markings on his forehead that resembled flames. These markings would later be recognized as the Demon Slayer mark, a sign of enhanced abilities. Unlike other children, Yoriichi displayed extraordinary talent from the moment he could walk. His family initially believed he might be deaf because he remained silent for the first 7 years of his life. In reality, Yoriichi simply chose not to speak. When he finally did speak, his first words were clear and articulate, showing maturity beyond his age. As a child, Yoriichi could see something called the transparent world, which allowed him to view the internal workings of living beings. He could see muscles, bones, blood flow, and organs through skin and clothing. This ability gave him perfect understanding of how bodies moved and how they would move before they actually did. At age 7, Yoriichi picked up a sword for the first time in his life. He had never received any training whatsoever. Despite this complete lack of experience, he defeated a trained sword instructor effortlessly, leaving the man unconscious and covered in injuries. People who witnessed this feat called him a miracle. His older twin brother, Michikatsu, trained relentlessly with the sword every single day. Yet even as an adult, Michikatsu could not match what Yoriichi accomplished as an untrained child. Yoriichi eventually joined the Demon Slayer Corps, the organization dedicated to protecting humanity from demons. It was during his time with the Corps that he developed sun breathing. The technique centered on a concept called total concentration breathing. This involved expanding the lungs to their maximum capacity and taking in as much oxygen as possible. The increased oxygen intake accelerated blood flow throughout the entire body. Heart rate increased dramatically. Body temperature rose. All of these changes combined to enhance physical capabilities far beyond normal human limits. Muscles received more oxygen and could perform at higher levels. Movements became faster. Strikes became more powerful. Endurance increased dramatically. By controlling their breathing in specific rhythms and patterns, users could maintain these enhanced physical states for extended periods. Yoriichi took this concept further than anyone else. He synchronized his breathing with every movement of his sword. Each inhale fueled his strikes. Each exhale sharpened his blade. His breathing and his swordplay became one unified action. The result was sun breathing, a technique that mimicked the intensity and power of the sun itself. Sun breathing originally consisted of 12 distinct forms. Each form represented a different sword technique, and all 12 forms connected to one another in a continuous sequence. The forms had names that reflected their solar nature. There was Dance, which involved a powerful downward slash. There was Clear Blue Sky, which created a spinning circular slash. There was Raging Sun, which delivered multiple strikes in succession. There was Fake Rainbow, which created afterimages to confuse opponents. Each form served a specific purpose in combat and flowed naturally into the next form. The forms varied wildly in their application, making sun breathing extremely versatile. Unlike other fighting styles that specialized in one area, sun breathing had techniques for every possible combat situation. Users of sun breathing visualized themselves manipulating solar flames when they unleashed their techniques. These flames appeared as intense orange and red fire that surrounded their blade. The flames looked incredibly real to anyone watching, but they were actually just visual representations of the technique. The flames existed only in the mind of the user and those observing. However, the effects of sun breathing on demons were very real. Demons had one fundamental weakness that could not be overcome. They could not survive exposure to sunlight. Sunlight would cause their bodies to disintegrate completely, burning them away until nothing remained. This weakness applied to all demons without exception, from the weakest demon to the most powerful. Sun breathing exploited this weakness in a unique way. When a demon was struck by a sun breathing technique, the wound would burn, similar to how sunlight burned. The burning effect prevented the demon from regenerating the damaged area. A slash from a normal sword might heal within seconds, but a slash from sun breathing would continue burning and prevent healing. This made sun breathing the most effective weapon against demons that had ever been created. Yoruichi demonstrated the power of sun breathing when he encountered Muzan Kibutsuji, the progenitor of all demons. Muzan was the first demon to ever exist, and the most powerful being in the demon world. He had lived for over 1,000 years and had never been seriously threatened by any human. When Yoruichi fought Muzan in a bamboo forest, he cut the Demon King into 1,500 pieces in a single instant. Muzan barely survived by splitting his body into 1,800 total pieces and having the remaining 300 pieces escape. Each piece was so small that if gathered together, they would equal roughly the size of a human head. This encounter left Muzan traumatized. For the rest of his existence, Muzan lived in fear of Yoruichi. He never directly confronted demon slayers again after that day, always sending other demons to fight on his behalf. After creating sun breathing, Yoruichi attempted to teach it to other members of the Demon Slayer Corps. He demonstrated the technique and explained its principles to his fellow warriors. However, a major problem quickly became apparent. Other demon slayers could not perform sun breathing properly. The technique demanded absolute perfection in breathing control, timing, and sword technique. It required physical capabilities that most humans simply did not possess. Even talented swordsmen who trained for years could not replicate what Yoruichi did naturally. Their bodies could not handle the strain that sun breathing placed on their lungs and muscles. Attempting to use sun breathing in its original form would cause their lungs to collapse or their blood vessels to burst. The technique was too powerful for anyone except Yoruichi to use without destroying their own body. Yoruichi realized that his fellow demon slayers would never be able to use sun breathing as he did. Rather than give up, he decided to modify his technique to make it accessible to others. Yoruichi studied each of his students carefully. He observed their strengths and weaknesses. He noted which aspects of sun breathing they could perform and which aspects caused them problems. Then he adapted sun breathing for each individual student. He simplified the forms and reduced the physical demands. He focused on enhancing each student's natural abilities rather than forcing them to replicate his exact technique. One student showed incredible flexibility and could move their body like flowing water. Yoruichi created a modified version of sun breathing for this student that emphasized smooth, flowing movements. The techniques mimicked the versatile and adaptive nature of water. This became water breathing. Another student excelled at powerful singular strikes but lacked the stamina for extended combat. Yoruichi developed a style for this student centered on devastating attacks that would end fights quickly. The techniques focused on unleashing maximum power in each strike, similar to flames consuming fuel. This became flame breathing. A third student possessed extraordinary leg strength and could move at incredible speeds. Yoruichi created techniques that channeled all energy into the legs for explosive movement. This student could cross distances almost instantaneously, mimicking the speed of lightning. This became thunder breathing. A fourth student favored aggressive offense and rotating attacks. Yoruichi designed spinning techniques that generated powerful wind pressure. This became wind breathing. A fifth student had immense physical strength and preferred using the ground for stability. Yoruichi developed techniques that utilized earth and stone principles for both offense and defense. This became stone breathing. These 5 breathing styles became known as the fundamental breathing styles. They were called fundamental because all future breathing styles would branch from these 5. The 5 fundamental styles spread throughout the Demon Slayer Corps. Students who learned these styles eventually became teachers themselves. They trained the next generation, who trained the generation after that. Over time, Demon Slayers began creating new variations of the 5 fundamental styles. These variations were tailored to suit individual needs and abilities, just as Yoriichi had done when creating the original 5. Water breathing eventually spawned flower breathing, which mimicked flowers and fruits. Flower breathing later spawned insect breathing, which mimicked insects and utilized poison. Flame breathing spawned love breathing, which incorporated flexibility and emotion into combat. Thunder breathing spawned sound breathing, which used sound waves to disorient enemies. Wind breathing spawned mist breathing, which created confusion through unpredictable movements. And beast breathing, which emphasized wild, instinctive combat. Stone breathing remained unique, with no known variations, possibly because it required such immense physical strength that few could even attempt to modify it. Every single one of these breathing styles traced back to one of the 5 fundamental styles, which all traced back to sun breathing. While the 5 fundamental styles spread and evolved, sun breathing itself nearly disappeared. Muzan Kibutsuji feared sun breathing more than anything else in existence. After his encounter with Yoriichi, Muzan became obsessed with eliminating any possibility of facing sun breathing again. He enlisted the help of Kokushibo, who was actually Yoriichi's older brother Michikatsu transformed into a demon. Together, Muzan and Kokushibo hunted down anyone who knew sun breathing. They killed every user they could find. Their campaign was largely successful. Sun breathing was nearly erased from existence. Only one family managed to preserve the technique. Before Yoriichi died, he befriended a man named Sumiyoshi Kamado. Sumiyoshi was a simple charcoal maker with no connection to the Demon Slayer world. Yoriichi performed all 12 forms of sun breathing for Sumiyoshi, demonstrating each technique in perfect detail. Sumiyoshi memorized these movements and vowed to preserve them. He could not use sun breathing in combat as Yoriichi did, but he could remember the forms. Sumiyoshi passed the forms down to his children as a ceremonial dance. The family called this dance Hinokami Kagura, which translates to Dance of the Fire God. They performed the dance every new year as an offering to the fire god, dancing from sunset to sunrise to ward off threats and diseases. Along with the dance, Yoriichi gave Sumiyoshi his Hanafuda earrings. These earrings became a family heirloom passed from father to son through every generation of the Kamado family. The Kamado family preserved sun breathing for approximately 500 years without realizing what they were actually preserving. They believed they were simply maintaining a family tradition and honoring the fire god. They did not know the dance was actually a fighting technique. They did not know it was the legendary sun breathing that had nearly been lost to history. This changed when a boy named Tanjiro Kamado became a demon slayer. Tanjiro had learned the Hinokami Kagura from his father, but had never thought of it as a combat technique. When he found himself in desperate situations during his early missions, something within him triggered memories of watching his father perform the dance. He instinctively replicated the movements during combat. The forms worked. The techniques Tanjiro used matched the fundamental principles of sun breathing. His blade created the same solar flame effects. His attacks prevented demon regeneration in the same way. Through the Hinokami Kagura, sun breathing returned to combat after centuries of absence. As Tanjiro continued using these techniques, he gradually perfected them and restored the wasted movements that had accumulated over generations of ceremonial performance. Eventually, he began referring to his technique as sun breathing rather than Hinokami Kagura, acknowledging what it truly was. The impact of sun breathing on the Demon Slayer world cannot be overstated. Before Yoriichi created it, humans fought demons with no special techniques. They relied purely on physical ability and determination, which was not enough against superhuman demon powers. Sun breathing changed this fundamental imbalance. It gave humans a method to enhance their natural abilities to demonic levels. More importantly, by creating the 5 fundamental breathing styles, Yoriichi gave all demon slayers access to enhanced combat abilities. Not everyone could use the original sun breathing, but almost anyone could learn one of the 5 fundamental styles or their derivatives. This democratized enhanced combat capabilities across the entire Demon Slayer Corps. The 5 fundamental styles spread throughout Japan. Demon Slayers passed them down through generations. Teachers trained students who became teachers themselves. The techniques evolved and adapted to suit different combat needs and personal abilities. Within a few generations, breathing styles became the foundation of all Demon Slayer combat doctrine. Every active Demon Slayer used some form of breathing technique. The elite warriors called Hashira each mastered their chosen breathing style to its highest level. Many Hashira even created their own unique variations suited to their specific abilities and weapons. The breathing styles also had an unexpected effect on demon combat psychology. Before breathing styles existed, demons viewed humans as weak prey with no real defensive capabilities. This view was justified based on 500 years of easy victories. After breathing styles became widespread, demons could no longer assume automatic victory. A skilled demon slayer using breathing techniques could match or even exceed demon physical capabilities. Demons had to approach combat more carefully. They could no longer rely solely on regeneration because breathing-style attacks could prevent healing. They had to develop more sophisticated fighting strategies and blood demon arts to counter the enhanced human abilities. The war between humans and demons became much more balanced. While demons still held advantages, humans now had legitimate chances of victory in individual encounters. This shift in combat dynamics traced directly back to Yoriichi's creation of sun breathing and his adaptation of it into the 5 fundamental styles. Sun breathing itself remains the most powerful breathing style in existence. Its 13 forms, when performed correctly, surpass all other techniques in versatility and effectiveness. The style has no weaknesses because it adapts to every possible combat situation. Its connection to the sun makes it especially devastating against demons, who suffer from an instinctive fear of solar energy. However, sun breathing also remains the most difficult breathing style to use. It demands absolute physical perfection and flawless breathing control. Most humans simply cannot meet these requirements no matter how much they train. This explains why sun breathing nearly disappeared while the 5 fundamental styles thrived. The 5 fundamental styles were designed to be learnable by normal humans with sufficient dedication. Sun breathing was only truly mastered by Yoriichi, who was born with abilities no other human possessed. Tanjiro managed to use sun breathing through his family connection and extensive training, but even he could not replicate Yoriichi's perfected form. The gap between sun breathing's theoretical power and its practical accessibility meant that the 5 fundamental styles became the true legacy of Yoriichi's work. The story of sun breathing demonstrates how one person's innovation can reshape an entire world. Yoriichi Tsugikuni created a technique that single-handedly changed the war between humans and demons. He then adapted that technique to make it accessible to others, ensuring his innovation would benefit humanity long after his death. The 5 fundamental breathing styles descended from sun breathing represent different approaches to the same core concept of enhancing human abilities through controlled breathing. Each style emphasizes different aspects of combat and suits different types of fighters. Water breathing focuses on adaptability and fluid movement. Flame breathing focuses on powerful offensive strikes. Thunder breathing focuses on speed and explosive power. Wind breathing focuses on aggressive spinning attacks. Stone breathing focuses on stability and overwhelming force. All 5 approaches work because they all stem from the same revolutionary concept that Yoriichi pioneered. Every demon slayer who uses any breathing technique owes their ability to Yoriichi's original creation. Every demon defeated by a breathing style technique falls to a descendant of sun breathing, even if that connection is separated by centuries and multiple branches of evolution. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Demon Slayer marks, which massively boost a fighter's power but also shorten their lifespan. Demon Slayer marks drastically boost power but shorten life. The Demon Slayer mark represents one of the most powerful abilities a Demon Slayer can obtain. This mysterious marking appears on the bodies of exceptionally strong warriors, granting them incredible power that can turn the tide of battle against even the most dangerous demons. However, this power comes with a terrible price. According to what Demon Slayers discovered through studying past users, anyone who awakens the Demon Slayer mark will die before reaching the age of 25. This curse applies to virtually everyone who manifests the mark, creating a horrifying choice between gaining the strength needed to defeat demons and sacrificing their future. The mark is not given freely. It appears only when a Demon Slayer pushes their body to absolute extremes and survives conditions that would normally kill a person. The Demon Slayer mark looks different for each person who awakens it. The marking appears somewhere on the body, usually on the face, and takes on a pattern that relates to the breathing style the user practices. For someone who uses water breathing, their mark might resemble flowing water. For someone using flame breathing, the mark might look like fire. Each pattern is unique to the individual. Similar to how no two people have identical fingerprints, the marks resemble tattoos, scars, or birthmarks, and they become visible on the skin when activated. Some users can control when their mark appears and disappears, while others have their mark permanently visible after awakening it. The size and exact placement varies, but the mark typically appears in a location where it can be easily seen, as if announcing the bearer's enhanced status to the world. The first person to ever possess a Demon Slayer mark was Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the same legendary warrior who created sun breathing approximately 500 years ago during Japan's Sengoku era. Unlike every other Demon Slayer who came after him, Yoriichi was born with his mark already present on his forehead. His mark resembled flames and appeared from the moment of his birth. When Yoriichi joined the Demon Slayer Corps and began teaching others his breathing techniques, something extraordinary happened. Other Demon Slayers who trained alongside Yoriichi also began manifesting marks on their bodies. The mark spread from one person to another through a process that would later be called resonance. This period became known as the Golden Age of Demon Slayers because so many warriors possessed marks and wielded tremendous power. During this era, the Demon Slayer Corps came closer to killing Muzan Kibutsuji than at any other point in history. However, after Yoriichi's generation passed away and the Corps nearly faced extinction multiple times, knowledge about the Demon Slayer mark was almost completely lost. Information about how the marks worked, what they did, and what caused them simply vanished from official records. The marks themselves disappeared entirely for centuries, not manifesting on any Demon Slayer during that entire time. The Demon Slayer mark remained dormant and forgotten until a young warrior named Tanjiro Kamado awakened it during the present era of the story. Tanjiro was fighting against Gyutaro, one of the upper-ranked demons who served directly under Muzan. During this desperate battle, Tanjiro pushed himself to his absolute limit. The scar on his forehead, which he had received years earlier from a childhood burn, suddenly transformed and expanded into a flame-like pattern that covered more of his face. This transformation marked the reawakening of the Demon Slayer mark after centuries of absence. Tanjiro's mark looked nearly identical to Yoriichi's flame pattern, which was no coincidence since both users practiced sun breathing. After Tanjiro awakened his mark, other powerful Demon Slayers called Hashira also began manifesting their own marks through resonance. The mark had returned to the world, bringing with it both incredible power and its terrible curse. Awakening a Demon Slayer mark requires surviving incredibly specific and dangerous physical conditions. A person must experience a heart rate that exceeds 200 beats per minute, while simultaneously maintaining a body temperature above 39 degrees Celsius, which equals 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Both conditions must occur at the same time, and the person must survive these extreme physical states. A normal human heart rate at rest ranges between 60 and 100 beats per minute. Even during intense exercise, most people's heart rates only reach 150 to 170 beats per minute. A heart rate above 200 beats per minute is considered medically dangerous and can cause serious health complications or death. Similarly, a body temperature of 39 degrees Celsius represents a significant fever. Normal human body temperature sits around 37 degrees Celsius. When body temperature rises above 38 degrees, doctors consider this a fever requiring medical attention. At 39 degrees and beyond, the body experiences extreme stress and begins shutting down important functions. The combination of these two factors puts enormous strain on every system in the human body. These extreme conditions typically occur only during life-threatening combat situations. When a Demon Slayer faces a demon far more powerful than themselves and fights with absolutely everything they have, their body might reach these dangerous thresholds. The warrior must be giving their complete effort, holding nothing back, pushing past pain and exhaustion to survive. Most people who experience these conditions simply die. Their hearts give out, or their bodies shut down from the fever. According to Muichiro Tokito, one of the Hashira who awakened his mark, the difference between those who manifest marks and those who fail comes down to survival. The warriors who awaken marks are those strong enough to endure conditions that kill everyone else. However, even surviving these physical extremes is not enough on its own to guarantee awakening a mark. Another crucial requirement exists that makes the mark even more difficult to obtain. The most important prerequisite for awakening a Demon Slayer mark involves contact with someone who already possesses one. The mark cannot awaken in isolation. Someone must be the first to manifest it in any given era, and that person must have a connection to sun breathing. Yoriichi was born with the mark and used sun breathing. Tanjiro awakened his mark first in the current era and practiced the Hinokami Kagura, which is actually sun breathing passed down through his family. Once someone with a sun-breathing connection manifests a mark first, other Demon Slayers can awaken their own marks through proximity and resonance. This spreading effect allows multiple warriors to gain marks if they're near the original bearer and push themselves to the required physical extremes. The mark acts like a catalyst that unlocks the potential in other Demon Slayers. During the Sengoku era, Yoriichi's presence allowed all the other warriors training with him to manifest marks. In the current era, after Tanjiro awakened his mark, the Hashira who fought alongside him or trained with him also began awakening their marks one by one. The power granted by a Demon Slayer mark is extraordinary and transforms the bearer into a warrior who can match the strongest demons. The most obvious enhancement comes in physical capabilities. The mark exponentially increases the user's strength and speed. It is implied that a marked user's physical strength increases by approximately 100 times their normal capacity, though this figure might be somewhat exaggerated. Regardless of the exact multiplier, the enhancement is dramatic and unmistakable. Muichiro Tokito provides a clear example of this transformation. Before awakening his mark, Muichiro struggled badly against Gyoko, the upper rank 5 demon. Gyoko's various techniques and attacks overwhelmed Muichiro, and the young Hashira could barely keep up with the demon's movements. However, after Muichiro awakened his Demon Slayer mark during the battle, everything changed instantly. The marked Muichiro could suddenly move faster than Gyoko. He dodged attacks that would have struck him before. He cut through Gyoko's defenses with ease. Muichiro went from being completely outmatched to utterly dominating the same demon who had been beating him moments earlier. This pattern repeated with other marked users. Hashira who activated their marks could suddenly fight on equal footing with upper-ranked demons who would have killed them before. The Demon Slayer mark grants several specific abilities beyond simple physical enhancement. One of the most important abilities is access to something called the Transparent World. Users who unlock this ability can perceive the internal workings of living beings as if their skin was completely transparent. They see muscles, bones, blood vessels, and organs through flesh and clothing. This allows marked users to observe blood flow, watch muscle contractions, and track joint movements with perfect clarity. By monitoring these internal processes, a marked Demon Slayer can predict exactly how their opponent will move before they actually move. If someone's leg muscles contract in a specific way, the marked user knows that person is about to jump to the left. If blood flow increases to the right arm, the marked user knows an attack from that side is coming. This predictive ability makes it extremely difficult for opponents to land successful attacks against someone who can see the transparent world. Additionally, users who access the transparent world experience time differently. The world appears to move in slow motion around them while they perceive everything at normal speed. This gives marked users incredible reaction time and movement speed advantages over their opponents. Another ability granted by the Demon Slayer mark involves the Nichirin sword that Demon Slayers carry. Marked users can turn their Nichirin swords a bright crimson-red color. This happens either by clashing their blade against another marked user's sword or by gripping their own sword with tremendous force. The bright red Nichirin sword becomes significantly more effective at fighting demons. Red blades generate intense heat that demons find extremely damaging. More importantly, wounds inflicted by red Nichirin swords hamper demon regeneration abilities. Demons normally heal from almost any injury within seconds. They can regrow lost limbs, repair damaged organs, and recover from fatal wounds as long as their head remains attached. Red Nichirin swords disrupt this regeneration, preventing wounds from healing properly. Even Muzan Kibutsuji, the most powerful demon in existence, could not regenerate at his normal rate when struck by red Nichirin swords. This ability alone makes the Demon Slayer mark invaluable in combat against strong demons who rely heavily on their regeneration to survive battles. The Demon Slayer mark also increases the user's resistance to Muzan Kibutsuji's blood. Muzan creates new demons by injecting his blood into humans. His blood causes a biological transformation at the cellular level that turns humans into demons. This process happens rapidly and forcefully. However, marked Demon Slayers show increased resistance to this transformation. Their bodies can withstand exposure to Muzan's blood better than unmarked individuals. This doesn't make them completely immune to becoming demons, but it gives them more time and a better chance of surviving contact with Muzan's blood without transforming. This resistance works similarly to how total concentration breathing provides some protection against demon transformation. The combination of both factors makes marked Demon Slayers particularly resistant to Muzan's attempts to turn them into demons. Finally, the mark improves healing rate for the user. Marked Demon Slayers recover from injuries much faster than normal. Muichiro and Mitsuri, after their respective battles against upper-ranked demons, nearly fully recovered from severe injuries in just 3 days. This accelerated healing allows marked users to return to combat much sooner than would normally be possible. Despite all these incredible benefits, the Demon Slayer mark carries a curse that makes many warriors hesitate before seeking to awaken it. Demon Slayers who manifest the mark are said to die without exception before reaching the age of 25. This information comes from Kokushibo, who was Yoriichi's older twin brother and witnessed the effects of the mark firsthand during the Sengoku era. Kokushibo explained that the mark essentially trades the user's lifespan in exchange for greater power. Gyome Himejima, the Stone Hashira, described it as paying one's lifespan in advance for a greater physique. The exact mechanism behind this curse remains unclear, but the most accepted explanation relates to the physical strain the mark places on the body. Shinobu Kocho noted that the conditions required to awaken the mark are harmful to the body. Maintaining the enhanced state that comes with the mark continuously damages the user's body at a fundamental level. The exponential increase in power and the extreme physical conditions needed to activate the mark apparently extract such a heavy toll that the human body simply cannot survive past age 25. The curse applies regardless of when someone awakens their mark. If a Demon Slayer manifests their mark at age 15, they have approximately 10 years remaining. If they manifest it at age 20, they have roughly 5 years left. The countdown to age 25 begins the moment the mark first appears. What makes the curse even more severe is what happens to people who awaken the mark after already turning 25 years old. Gyome Himejima awakened his Demon Slayer mark at age 27. Kokushibo predicted that because Gyome was already past the age limit, he would die within a few hours of activating the mark rather than having years remaining. This prediction proved accurate. Gyome died shortly after the final battle against Muzan, though whether his death resulted directly from the mark's curse or from the severe injuries he sustained during combat remains unclear. The fact remains that awakening the mark after age 25 leads to death in a matter of hours rather than years. Only one person in history has ever escaped the Demon Slayer mark's curse while remaining human. Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the first person to possess the mark, lived to be over 80 years old before dying of natural causes. He was born with the mark already present on his body and used it throughout his entire life without suffering any reduction in lifespan. The exact reason why Yoriichi escaped the curse remains unknown and unexplained in the series. The most common theory suggests that being born with the mark rather than awakening it later in life somehow protected him from the curse. Yoriichi's natural connection to the mark from birth might have allowed his body to adapt to its effects in ways that other users could not replicate. Alternatively, Yoriichi's connection to sun breathing might have played a role. Since sun breathing is the original breathing style from which all others derive, and since users of sun breathing seem to have special relationships with the Demon Slayer mark, Yoriichi's mastery of this technique might have granted him immunity. Whatever the reason, Yoriichi stands alone as the only human Demon Slayer to live a full natural lifespan while possessing the mark. However, there are two other beings who escaped the mark's curse through different means. Both of them achieved this by becoming demons. Kokushibo, Yoriichi's older twin brother, awakened his Demon Slayer mark during the Sengoku era while training as a Demon Slayer. When he learned about the curse and realized he would die before age 25, fear gripped him. Kokushibo valued his life and feared death greatly. He also desperately wanted to continue growing stronger and perfecting his techniques. When Muzan Kibutsuji offered him the chance to become a demon and gain immortality, Kokushibo accepted. By transforming into a demon, Kokushibo escaped the curse entirely. Demons do not age and can live forever unless killed by specific means. Kokushibo retained his Demon Slayer mark after transforming, and the flame-like pattern remained visible on his forehead even in his demon form. He lived for approximately 400 additional years as a demon after passing age 25, becoming upper rank 1 and one of the most powerful demons in existence. His mark continued functioning and providing enhanced abilities even after his transformation. Tanjiro Kamado represents the only other case of someone retaining their Demon Slayer mark after becoming a demon. Near the end of the final battle against Muzan Kibutsuji, both Tanjiro and Muzan sustained fatal injuries. As Muzan began dying from exposure to sunlight, he made a desperate final attempt to ensure his legacy would continue. Muzan transferred all of his remaining blood into Tanjiro's dying body. This massive infusion of demon blood transformed Tanjiro into a demon despite his human nature and willpower. When Tanjiro awakened as a demon, his Demon Slayer mark remained present on his forehead. In fact, his mark actually grew and expanded. A second flame-shaped mark appeared growing upward from his neck toward his forehead, and a third smaller mark appeared on the other side of his head. These multiple marks made Tanjiro's demon form resemble Kokushibo's appearance. The marks continued functioning and providing Tanjiro with enhanced abilities even in his demon state. Tanjiro retained his mark specifically because he had awakened it as a human before his transformation into a demon. Kokushibo and Tanjiro are the only known demons to possess Demon Slayer marks because both of them manifested their marks while still human. The fate of marked Demon Slayers who survived the final battle against Muzan remains uncertain. 3 marked warriors lived through the conflict: Tanjiro Kamado, Giyu Tomioka, and Sanemi Shinazugawa. Tanjiro was briefly transformed into a demon, but was restored to humanity through the combined efforts of his friends and a special cure. After returning to human form, questions arose about whether Tanjiro would still face death at age 25. The manga never explicitly confirms Tanjiro's ultimate fate. The series ends with an epilogue set many years later showing Tanjiro's descendants living happy lives in a modern Japan free of demons. This heavily implies that Tanjiro survived long enough to grow older, marry, and have children. However, the manga never states definitively whether he escaped the curse or simply lived to age 25 before dying. Giyu and Sanemi, who only had their marks active for a few hours during the final battle, might have better chances of survival since they used the mark state very briefly compared to other users who kept their marks activated for extended periods. The Demon Slayer mark represents the ultimate double-edged sword for warriors fighting against demons. It grants power necessary to defeat enemies that would otherwise be unbeatable. Marked users can match upper-ranked demons in combat, something unmarked Demon Slayers struggle to achieve. The enhanced strength, speed, perception, and special abilities make the difference between victory and defeat in crucial battles. However, this power costs the user their future. Awakening the mark means accepting death before age 25. For most Demon Slayers, this trade is worth making. They fight to protect humanity from demons, knowing that their lives will be short. The mark simply makes that sacrifice more explicit and more certain. Rather than hoping to survive demon encounters indefinitely, marked users know exactly how much time they have left. This knowledge allows them to focus completely on their mission without worrying about their personal future. The Hashira, who awakened their marks during the final arc, all accepted the curse willingly. They understood that defeating Muzan required every advantage they could obtain, even if gaining that advantage meant sacrificing years of life they might never have anyway, given the dangerous nature of their work. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Muzan's entire existence as a demon began with a medical treatment that went horribly wrong. Muzan's whole demon existence started as a failed medical cure. The entire demon threat that plagues the world of Demon Slayer began with a single failed medical treatment over 1,000 years ago. Muzan Kibutsuji, the original demon and the most powerful demon in existence, never intended to become a monster. His transformation into a demon happened purely by accident, resulting from an experimental medicine that was supposed to cure his terminal illness. The doctor who created this medicine died before completing the treatment, killed by the very patient he was trying to save. This single moment of impatience and rage created a curse that would haunt humanity for over a millennium. Muzan spent the next 1,000 years obsessively searching for the ingredient used in that original medicine, hoping to finish what the doctor started and overcome the one weakness that prevented him from achieving perfect immortality. Muzan Kibutsuji was born during Japan's Heian era, which lasted from 794 to 1185. This period occurred approximately 1,000 years before the main events of Demon Slayer take place. From the very moment of his conception, Muzan struggled with survival in ways that would shape his entire existence. While still developing inside his mother's womb, Muzan's heart stopped beating multiple times. These cardiac arrests should have resulted in fetal death, but somehow the unborn child clung to life. When Muzan was finally born, medical practitioners of the time declared him stillborn. The infant showed no pulse and was not breathing. By all appearances and understanding of medicine during that era, the baby was dead. Following the customs of the time, Muzan's family prepared to cremate him. They placed his tiny body on the funeral pyre and made ready to burn what they believed was a corpse. However, just before the flames could consume him, something extraordinary happened. Muzan suddenly cried out, releasing his first wails of life. This unexpected sound shocked everyone present and saved him from cremation. The infant had somehow fought his way back from death's door through sheer will to survive. This traumatic beginning set the pattern for Muzan's entire human life. Death constantly haunted him from that moment forward. Throughout his childhood and into his young adult years, Muzan suffered from persistent, debilitating illnesses. His body remained extremely frail and weak. He could not perform standard physical activities that other people his age accomplished with ease. Where other children ran and played, Muzan struggled simply to stay alive. His family belonged to the noble Ubuyashiki clan, which meant they had access to wealth and resources. However, no amount of money or privilege could cure what afflicted Muzan. The medical knowledge of the Heian era was limited compared to modern understanding. Treatments relied more on tradition and experimentation than on scientific principles. Doctors of that time could diagnose conditions, but had few effective remedies for serious illnesses. Muzan's ongoing health problems created in him an intense fear of death called thanatophobia. This fear consumed him as he grew older, and his condition worsened rather than improved. As Muzan reached young adulthood, doctors diagnosed him with a rare and unnamed terminal disease. The specific nature of this illness was never identified in historical records. What doctors knew with certainty was that the disease would kill Muzan before he reached his 20th birthday. This diagnosis meant Muzan had very little time remaining. He was approximately 19 years old when he learned he would die within a year or less. For someone who had spent his entire existence fighting to survive, this death sentence was unbearable. Muzan refused to accept this fate. He desperately sought any possible cure, no matter how experimental or dangerous. His fear of dying drove him to try treatments that others might have rejected as too risky. It was during this desperate search for survival that Muzan encountered a doctor who offered hope. This doctor remains unnamed in all historical accounts. He appears only briefly in Muzan's backstory, but his actions changed the course of human history. The doctor was a kind and generous man who genuinely wanted to help his dying patient. He possessed knowledge that was advanced for his time and showed willingness to experiment with new treatments. The doctor had somehow acquired an extremely rare flower called the blue spider lily. This flower did not grow commonly anywhere in Japan. Its rarity made it almost mythical in nature. However, the doctor believed this flower possessed medicinal properties that could potentially cure terminal illnesses. He developed an experimental medicine using the blue spider lily as its key ingredient. This medicine was not a proven cure. It existed only in prototype form, never having been successfully tested or replicated. The doctor understood the risks but decided to try the treatment on Muzan because the young man would certainly die without intervention. The doctor administered the blue spider lily medicine to Muzan and monitored his patient's condition. The treatment was supposed to require time to take full effect. As with many medicines, both historical and modern, the healing process would not happen instantly. The doctor knew this and tried to explain to Muzan that patience was necessary. However, Muzan's condition appeared to worsen initially, rather than improve. Days passed without visible signs of recovery. From Muzan's perspective, the medicine had failed completely. He felt himself growing weaker, and his symptoms showed no improvement. Anger and desperation overwhelmed him. Muzan had placed his last hope in this experimental treatment, and it seemed to be accomplishing nothing. His fear of imminent death intensified. In his mind, the doctor had lied to him or proven to be a fraud. This man had promised a cure and delivered only continued suffering. In a moment of rage fueled by terror and desperation, Muzan attacked his doctor. He grabbed some kind of blade and murdered the physician who had been trying to save his life. The exact details of this killing vary in different accounts, but the result was the same. The doctor died at Muzan's hands, stabbed or struck in the head. Muzan killed the only person who understood the blue spider lily medicine and how it worked. Only after committing this murder did Muzan realize his terrible mistake. Shortly after killing the doctor, the medicine's effects finally began manifesting in Muzan's body. The treatment had actually been working all along, just as the doctor had said it would. The medicine simply needed more time to take effect. Muzan's physical constitution suddenly improved dramatically. His weak and frail body transformed into something incredibly strong. The terminal illness that had been killing him vanished completely. For the first time in his life, Muzan felt powerful and healthy. The medicine had cured him just as the doctor promised it would. However, this cure came with unexpected side effects that the doctor might have been able to prevent or mitigate if he had lived to complete the treatment. Muzan discovered that along with his newfound strength, he had developed an insatiable craving for human flesh and blood. This desire was not merely psychological, but biological. His body now required human flesh to survive and maintain its enhanced state. Muzan did not hesitate to satisfy this new appetite. He began consuming humans without remorse or guilt. His family members became his first victims. The medicine had fundamentally altered not just his body, but something deeper in his nature. Muzan adapted quickly to his new existence and felt no regret about eating people to survive. In fact, he embraced this change and all the incredible abilities it granted him. He could regenerate from almost any injury. His strength far exceeded normal human capabilities. His speed was superhuman. He seemed virtually immortal in every way that mattered. But then, Muzan discovered the one horrible drawback to his transformation. He found that exposure to sunlight caused him immense pain. If he stepped outside during the day, the sun's rays would burn his skin. Extended exposure would ultimately reduce him to ashes and kill him completely. This weakness to sunlight meant Muzan could only exist at night. He had spent his entire human life fearing death, and the medicine had freed him from his terminal illness, only to trap him in darkness. The thought of spending the rest of his immortal existence avoiding daylight infuriated Muzan. He deeply resented this limitation. Only then did he truly regret his decision to kill the doctor in rage. If he had been more patient and allowed the treatment to finish properly, perhaps the doctor could have completed the medicine without this fatal flaw. The doctor might have known that the treatment was incomplete and had more steps remaining. Instead, Muzan killed the one person who could have finished the cure and eliminated the sunlight weakness. Determined to understand what had happened to him and find a way to fix his vulnerability, Muzan searched through whatever medical notes and information the doctor had left behind. Through this research, he discovered that the key ingredient in the medicine was the blue spider lily. Muzan became convinced that finding more of this flower could nullify his weakness to sunlight. If consuming it once as part of the medicine had given him immortality and incredible power, surely finding it again and using it properly would complete his transformation. He would become a perfect being with no weaknesses whatsoever. This belief drove Muzan to begin an extensive search across all of Japan for the blue spider lily. He spent decades looking for this flower without success. The search continued for centuries with no positive results. Muzan never found a single blue spider lily during all those years of searching. The reason for his failure was simple but tragic. The blue spider lily had very specific and unusual blooming patterns. The flower only bloomed during daylight hours for 2 to 3 days each year. Some years, depending on climate conditions, the flower did not bloom at all. When it did bloom, it opened only briefly before closing back up and resembling a large horsetail weed. Someone would need to see the flower during its very short blooming period to identify it. The timing requirements were extremely precise. Muzan's weakness to sunlight made finding the flower impossible. He could only search at night, but the blue spider lily only revealed itself during the day. The one ingredient that could complete his transformation and allow him to walk in sunlight remained forever out of reach because he needed to walk in sunlight to find it. This cruel irony was not lost on Muzan. If he had not killed the doctor, if he had been more patient with the original treatment, he could have asked where the blue spider lily grew. The doctor had found the flower and knew its properties. He was the only person in the world who possessed that knowledge. Muzan had murdered his only source of information in a fit of rage. Despite his immense power and abilities, Muzan considered himself imperfect and incomplete. The sunlight weakness humiliated him. He obsessed over finding a cure for this vulnerability. This obsession consumed him for the next 1,000 years and defined every action he took. When his personal search for the blue spider lily proved fruitless, Muzan changed his strategy. He began using his blood to create other demons. His transformed blood had gained special properties that could convert humans into demons. When Muzan injected his blood into a human, that person would undergo a biological transformation at the cellular level. Most humans died from this process, as Muzan's blood was extremely poisonous. However, some humans survived the transformation and became demons themselves. These new demons possessed abilities similar to Muzan's, though far weaker. They gained superhuman strength, regeneration, and immunity to normal weapons. They also inherited the same weaknesses, including vulnerability to sunlight and a need to consume human flesh. Muzan created demons for two specific purposes related to his obsession with overcoming the sun. First, he hoped that eventually one of these demons would develop natural resistance to sunlight. If a demon gained immunity to the sun through some mutation or adaptation, Muzan planned to consume that demon and absorb their abilities. By eating a sun-immune demon, he believed he could acquire their resistance for himself. Second, he ordered all his demons to search for the blue spider lily. Demons could spread across Japan and look in different locations simultaneously. Perhaps one of them would stumble across the flower during its brief blooming period, or a human working for demons might find it during daylight. Muzan created increasingly more demons over the centuries, spreading them throughout Japan like a plague. He organized his strongest demons into a hierarchy called the 12 Kizuki, with upper ranks and lower ranks based on their power levels. All of these demons had orders to either find the blue spider lily or develop immunity to sunlight. Failure to make progress toward these goals resulted in severe punishment or death. The demon epidemic that plagued Japan for 1,000 years existed solely because Muzan wanted to cure his sunlight weakness. Every human killed by demons, every family destroyed, every tragedy inflicted upon humanity traced back to Muzan's impatience and his murder of the doctor who tried to save him. If Muzan had simply waited a few more days or weeks for the medicine to complete its work properly, none of this would have happened. The doctor would have finished the treatment. Muzan might have been cured without becoming a demon at all, or if he did transform, perhaps the doctor could have prevented the sunlight weakness. The entire 1,000-year war between demons and demon slayers resulted from one moment of rage and impatience. Muzan's obsessive search for the blue spider lily defined his existence and motivated all his actions throughout the centuries. This search intensified when Muzan discovered that a young girl named Nezuko Kamado had somehow developed immunity to sunlight despite being a demon. Muzan had previously attacked the Kamado family, injecting them all with his blood in hopes of creating a sun-immune demon. He believed the family died from his blood's poison and left without confirming all the deaths. Unknown to him, Nezuko survived and transformed into a demon who retained her human consciousness. Over time, Nezuko developed the ability to walk in sunlight without burning. When Muzan learned about this, his obsession reached fever pitch. Nezuko represented exactly what he had been trying to create for centuries. If he could capture and consume her, he would gain the sunlight immunity he desperately wanted. This made Nezuko one of Muzan's primary targets during the final arc of the story. In the end, Muzan never found the blue spider lily himself. Historical records in the Demon Slayer epilogue reveal that approximately 100 years after Muzan's death, a botanist and researcher named Aoba Hashibira discovered some blue spider lily flowers. However, due to an error in an experiment, all these flowers withered and died. With their destruction, the demon race was permanently eliminated, as no one could replicate Muzan's transformation without the blue spider lily. The true nature of the flower and its properties remained an eternal mystery. The medicine that created the first demon could never be recreated, which meant humanity was finally safe from the demon threat. Ironically, Kei Kamado, Tanjiro's mother, had known where blue spider lilies bloomed and had shown them to young Tanjiro when he was very small. The flowers grew near the Kamado family home. Tanjiro could have led Muzan directly to them if he had remembered. The thing Muzan searched for desperately for 1,000 years grew near the home of the family he attacked. Muzan Kibutsuji's entire existence as a demon stemmed from a medical procedure gone wrong. A kind doctor tried to save a dying young man using experimental medicine made from a rare flower. The patient, consumed by fear and rage, killed his physician before the treatment finished. This single act of violence transformed Muzan into the most powerful demon in history and condemned humanity to 1,000 years of suffering. Muzan spent all those centuries trying to undo or complete what the doctor had started, searching desperately for the blue spider lily that could cure his one remaining weakness. His fear of death, which began before he was even born, drove him to murder the person trying to help him. That same fear motivated everything he did afterward. Muzan created demons and killed countless humans, all because he was too impatient to let the medicine work properly. The tragic irony was that the cure succeeded despite his interference. The medicine saved his life exactly as promised. But by killing the doctor, Muzan ensured he would remain forever trapped as an imperfect being, unable to walk in the light of day, always searching for a completion that would never come. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, the Demon Slayer Corps isn't recognized by the government at all. The Demon Slayer Corps has protected Japan from demons for over 1,000 years. This organization consists of hundreds of highly trained warriors who risk their lives every single day fighting supernatural threats that could wipe out entire villages. They possess specialized weapons, follow strict hierarchies, and operate with military-like discipline and structure. Despite all this, the Demon Slayer Corps has absolutely no official recognition from the Japanese government. They are not a sanctioned military branch, not a police force, and not any kind of government agency. The Corps operates entirely in secret, hidden from official channels and public knowledge. Most ordinary citizens have no idea the organization even exists. This unofficial status forces the Demon Slayer Corps to function in ways that make their already dangerous work even more complicated. The Demon Slayer Corps was founded approximately 1,000 years ago during Japan's Heian era. The organization came into existence shortly after Muzan Kibutsuji transformed into the first demon. Muzan was a distant relative of the Ubuyashiki family, an ancient and noble bloodline. When Muzan became a demon, a curse fell upon the entire Ubuyashiki lineage. This curse caused subsequent generations of the family to suffer from severe illnesses and premature deaths. No child born to the Ubuyashiki family could expect to live past early adulthood. Seeking guidance about how to break this terrible curse, the Ubuyashiki family consulted with a priest. The priest advised them that the only way to end the curse was to eliminate Muzan and cleanse the evil stain from their bloodline. Taking this advice to heart, the Ubuyashiki family established the Demon Slayer Corps. Their goal was to lead humanity's battle against Muzan and the demons he created. The family took personal responsibility for organizing and funding this fight, believing that by destroying all demons, they could finally break the curse that plagued them. From its very beginning, the Demon Slayer Corps operated without any official government backing. The reasons for this lack of recognition are complex and relate to both the nature of demons and the political realities of feudal Japan. First and most importantly, the vast majority of people do not know that demons exist. Demons operate primarily at night and in isolated areas. They kill their victims quickly and leave little evidence behind. When someone disappears or dies mysteriously, people blame bandits, wild animals, accidents, or natural causes. The idea that supernatural monsters are eating humans sounds like folklore and superstition to most rational people. If the Demon Slayer Corps went public and tried to explain their mission, they would be met with skepticism and disbelief. Government officials would likely dismiss them as either delusional or perpetrating some kind of elaborate hoax. Trying to convince authorities about the demon threat would be an uphill battle that would waste precious time and resources. Second, maintaining secrecy actually helps the Demon Slayer Corps function more effectively. If knowledge about demons became widespread public information, it would cause panic and chaos throughout society. Imagine if every citizen knew that monsters could break into their homes at night and eat their families. People would live in constant terror. Society would break down as everyone tried to protect themselves. Riots and hysteria would spread across the country. The government would face enormous pressure to do something about the demon threat, but conventional military forces cannot fight demons effectively. Soldiers with normal weapons stand no chance against beings who regenerate from almost any injury and possess superhuman strength and speed. Only demon slayers with specialized training, breathing techniques, and Nichiren swords can defeat demons. By keeping the demon threat secret, the Demon Slayer Corps prevents mass panic while quietly doing the work that needs to be done. Third, the unofficial status actually protects the Demon Slayer Corps from government interference and control. If the Corps became an official government organization, they would have to follow bureaucratic rules and answer to political authorities. Politicians might try to use the Corps for their own purposes. Government oversight could slow down decision-making and prevent quick responses to demon attacks. The Corps would become entangled in politics rather than focusing entirely on their mission. As an independent organization, the Demon Slayer Corps maintains complete freedom to operate according to their own judgment and priorities. They can send warriors wherever demons appear without needing to request permission or file paperwork. This independence makes them much more effective at their job. However, this unofficial status also creates serious problems for Demon Slayer Corps members. The most obvious issue involves carrying their weapons. Demon Slayers use special swords called Nichiren swords, which are the only weapons capable of permanently killing demons. These swords are absolutely essential for their work. But Japan has laws against carrying swords in public, especially during the Taisho era when the main story takes place. The Meiji Restoration and subsequent government reforms prohibited most people from openly carrying traditional weapons like swords. Former samurai-class privileges were abolished, and sword ownership became heavily restricted. Because the Demon Slayer Corps has no official recognition, their members cannot legally carry their swords openly. If a Demon Slayer walks down a city street with their sword visible, they risk arrest by police. Citizens might panic at the sight of an armed person. Authorities would confiscate the weapon and possibly imprison the swordsman. To work around this restriction, Demon Slayers must keep their swords hidden. They carry their weapons in ways that conceal them from view, often wrapped in cloth or disguised in some manner. This requirement makes their work more difficult and dangerous. When a demon attacks, the Demon Slayer must first unwrap or reveal their sword before they can fight. Those few seconds of delay could mean the difference between saving someone or watching them die. The inability to openly display their weapons also prevents Demon Slayers from responding quickly to sudden attacks in populated areas. If demons appear in a crowded market or busy street, the Demon Slayer cannot immediately draw their sword without causing public alarm. They must find ways to fight discreetly or lure the demon to a more private location. These complications would not exist if the Corps had official government recognition and special exemptions from weapon laws. The Demon Slayer Corps receives absolutely no financial support from the government. They cannot apply for funding, requisition supplies, or access any public resources. A normal military or police organization would receive salaries, equipment, facilities, and logistical support from government budgets. The Demon Slayer Corps gets none of this. Instead, the organization relies entirely on resources provided by the Ubuyashiki family. For over 1,000 years, the Ubuyashiki family has personally funded the entire operation of the Demon Slayer Corps using their private wealth. This includes paying salaries to all Demon Slayers, purchasing uniforms and equipment, maintaining facilities, funding the creation of Nichiren swords, supporting training programs, and covering all other operational expenses. The financial burden is enormous, yet the Ubuyashiki family has never wavered in their commitment. How does one family possess enough wealth to fund an entire military organization for a millennium? The Ubuyashiki family possesses a unique inherited ability called foresight. This heightened level of foresight allows them to predict future events with remarkable accuracy. They can sense when disasters might occur and take steps to avoid them. More importantly, for financial purposes, this foresight helps them make extremely successful business and investment decisions. Over centuries, the Ubuyashiki family used their predictive abilities to accumulate vast amounts of wealth and fortune. They invested wisely, avoided financial crises, and steadily built their resources. By the time of the main story, the family controls enough wealth to fully support several hundred Demon Slayers plus all the support staff and infrastructure the Corps requires. The family dedicates their entire fortune to defeating Muzan and eliminating demons, viewing this as their sacred duty and the only way to break the curse on their bloodline. The Demon Slayer Corps operates with a clear and strict hierarchy despite having no official structure. At the top of the organization sits the head of the Ubuyashiki family, who leads the Corps as Oyakata-sama, which translates roughly to Master. During the main story period, Kagaya Ubuyashiki serves as the 97th leader of the Corps. Kagaya cannot fight demons himself due to the illness caused by his family's curse, but his leadership abilities are extraordinary. He possesses remarkable charisma that makes people feel at ease simply by hearing his voice. His foresight allows him to make accurate predictions about demon movements and future events. Kagaya remembers the name of every single member who serves in the Corps and visits the graves of fallen warriors daily when his health permits. The Hashira and other members view him as a father figure and follow his commands with absolute loyalty and devotion. Below Oyakata-sama stand the Hashira, the 9 most powerful warriors in the entire organization. The Hashira represent the elite of the Demon Slayer Corps. Each Hashira has mastered their chosen breathing style to its highest level and proved their strength by either killing 50 demons or defeating one of the 12 Kizuki, the most powerful demons who serve directly under Muzan. The Hashira receive the most dangerous missions and serve as the primary defense against the strongest demons. They also help train lower-ranked members and participate in special Hashira training sessions to improve the overall strength of the Corps. Each Hashira specializes in a different breathing style and brings unique abilities to the organization. Despite being second in command only to Oyakata-sama, the Hashira show deep respect and obedience to their leader. Below the Hashira exists a ranking system with 10 levels for regular demon slayers. From lowest to highest, these ranks are Mizunoto, Mizunoe, Kanoto, Kanoe, Tsuchinoto, Tsuchinoe, Hinoto, Hinoe, Kinoto, and Kinoe. When someone passes the final selection and officially joins the Corps, they start at the lowest rank of Mizunoto. To advance through the ranks, a demon slayer must complete missions successfully and demonstrate improved skills. The Corps uses a special process called Wisteria Flower Engraving to inscribe each member's rank on the back of their hand. By flexing their arm and saying a password, demon slayers can reveal their current rank. This ranking system creates clear career progression and motivates members to improve their abilities. According to official sources, even the lowest-ranked members receive monthly salaries of around 200,000 yen, which was comparable to an entry-level salary during the Taisho era. Higher ranks presumably receive better compensation. Some exceptionally talented demon slayers become Tsuguko, which means successor. A Tsuguko is designated as the potential replacement for one of the Hashira should that Hashira retire or die. Tsuguko receive direct training from their chosen Hashira and learn their mentor's specific breathing style techniques. To become a Tsuguko, a demon slayer can either apply and get accepted or be scouted by a Hashira who recognizes their talent. This system ensures that the Hashira positions will always be filled by qualified warriors. The Corps also employs support staff who do not fight demons themselves. The Kakushi serve as a cleanup crew who provide medical first aid after battles, transport injured demon slayers to proper medical care, dispose of demon remains, and handle other logistical tasks. Most Kakushi have no swordsmanship skills but perform vital support functions that allow the fighting members to focus on combat. The swordsmiths who create Nichiren swords live in a secret swordsmith village whose location is carefully guarded. These artisans craft the specialized weapons that make demon slaying possible. The Demon Slayer Corps operates several important facilities despite having no official government property or installations. The Ubuyashiki Mansion serves as the headquarters of the Corps. The leader of the organization and his family reside there while overseeing daily operations. This confidential location also hosts the biannual Hashira meetings where the elite members gather to discuss important matters. Mount Fujikasane provides the venue for the final selection, the entrance exam for new recruits. This mountain is covered in wisteria flowers at its base, which demons despise and avoid. Captured demons are imprisoned at the mountaintop, and candidates must survive 7 days among these bloodthirsty monsters to pass the test. The Swordsmith Village remains hidden in a secret location to protect the artisans who forge Nichiren swords. Various Wisteria House families throughout Japan provide shelter and support to traveling demon slayers, offering meals and places to rest during their journeys. Communication within the organization happens through specially trained crows. Each demon slayer receives their own Kasugai crow upon joining the Corps. These birds deliver orders from headquarters, carry messages between members, and provide updates on demon sightings. The name Kasugai means connecting people in Japanese, reflecting the crow's role in keeping the scattered organization connected. These birds receive extensive training to understand and relay complex information. Only Zenitsu Agatsuma received a sparrow instead of a crow for reasons that remain unclear. The crow system allows the Corps to coordinate activities across large distances without relying on official postal services or telegraph systems that would create paper trails and draw government attention. Despite operating entirely outside official channels, the Demon Slayer Corps has successfully protected humanity for over 1,000 years. During the Sengoku era, the Corps experienced what became known as the Golden Age, when Yoriichi Tsugikuni taught breathing styles to the warriors of that generation. The marked demon slayers of that era came extremely close to completely annihilating all demons and killing Muzan himself. However, after that generation passed away, the Corps faced numerous crises and came perilously close to total destruction multiple times. With no government support to fall back on, every setback threatened the organization's survival. Yet the Ubuyashiki family never gave up, always finding ways to rebuild and continue the fight. Their private wealth and unwavering determination kept the Corps alive through centuries of struggle. The final generation of Demon Slayers during the Taisho era ultimately accomplished what their predecessors could not. Tanjiro Kamado, who practiced sun breathing, became the first Demon Slayer since Yoriichi to awaken the Demon Slayer mark. His awakening triggered a chain reaction that caused several Hashira to manifest their own marks. This marked generation, considered the strongest since the Golden Age, finally defeated Muzan Kibutsuji and eliminated the demon threat entirely. After Muzan's death, the young Kiriya Ubuyashiki, who became the 98th leader of the Corps after his father's sacrifice, officially disbanded the organization. With demons gone from the world, the Demon Slayer Corps had fulfilled its purpose. The curse on the Ubuyashiki family finally ended, and Kiriya lived to become the oldest person in Japan, something no previous family member had ever achieved. The Demon Slayer Corps' unofficial status represents both a strength and a weakness. Operating without government recognition allowed them independence, flexibility, and the ability to keep the demon threat secret from the general population. They could make decisions quickly without bureaucratic interference and maintain complete focus on their mission. However, this same status forced them to work in secrecy, prevented them from openly carrying weapons, denied them access to official resources, and placed the entire financial burden on a single family. The fact that the Corps succeeded despite these limitations speaks to the dedication of its members and the unwavering commitment of the Ubuyashiki family. For 1,000 years, this unofficial organization defended Japan from supernatural threats that the government did not even know existed, funded entirely by private wealth, following their own rules and hierarchy, answering to no authority except their own sense of duty to protect humanity. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Wisteria literally marks your rank on the back of your hand. After spending 7 days and nights fighting for their lives on a demon-infested mountain, the survivors of Final Selection gathered together in the early morning hours near the mountaintop shrine. 2 children from the Ubuyashiki family stand before them, offering congratulations to the few who made it through alive. These survivors have earned the right to call themselves members of the Demon Slayer Corps, but the journey has only just begun. Most of the time, only a handful of candidates survive the brutal test. The leader of the Corps, Kagaya Ubuyashiki, accepts any number of survivors because even a small increase in members helps the organization grow stronger. The children explain what comes next for these new Demon Slayers. Each new member will receive a custom-fitted uniform, and their measurements will be taken right there on the mountain to make sure everything fits properly. These uniforms are special, made from material that is highly durable and lightweight, water-resistant, and non-flammable. They will also get to choose the ore that will be used to forge their personal Nichiren sword, which skilled swordsmiths will craft and deliver to them within 2 weeks. These swords are made from a unique ore that constantly absorbs sunlight, one of the only major weaknesses that demons have. Each member also receives a Kasugai Crow, a special messenger bird that can speak in full sentences and will be essential for receiving mission orders and communicating with Corps headquarters. The crows are very loud and their speech is somewhat limited, but only the Demon Slayer they're assigned to can fully understand them. But there's something else that happens during this onboarding process. Something permanent that every Demon Slayer will carry with them for the rest of their career. Their rank gets inscribed on their hand through a process called Wisteria engraving. This marking is different from anything else they receive. The uniform can be repaired or replaced. The sword stays the same throughout their career. The crow remains their companion. But the rank engraving is something that becomes part of their body, a living record of their progress through the core. The engraving happens right there on Mount Fujikasane, the same mountain where the final selection just took place. This mountain holds special significance in the Demon Slayer Corps because of the wisteria flowers that grow there. Wisteria blooms all around the base and slopes of Mount Fujikasane every season, creating a beautiful purple barrier that serves a deadly purpose. This plant is incredibly important to demon slayers because wisteria is naturally poisonous to demons. During final selection, wisteria is used to keep the demons trapped inside the mountain, which is why the mountain's name, Fujikasane, actually translates to covered in wisteria. The demons that have been caught alive and placed on the mountain by existing demon slayers can't escape past the wisteria barrier. They're forced to stay in the area around the mountaintop where there are no wisteria flowers growing, creating a controlled testing ground for candidates. The wisteria plant does more than just trap demons on the mountain. Throughout the Demon Slayer Corps, wisteria serves multiple purposes in the fight against demons. Growing wisteria flowers or burning wisteria incense around a house can ward off demons that might attack. The poison from wisteria can be extracted and used to create weapons that paralyze regular demons and can even immobilize the lower ranks of the 12 Kizuki, the most powerful demons in existence who serve directly under the Demon King, Muzan Kibutsuji. A normal dose of wisteria poison can stop a demon's regeneration abilities, limit their movement, suppress their extra senses, and even weaken their blood demon art. In high enough amounts, wisteria poison can completely dissolve a demon's body, making their regeneration powers useless. Some demon slayers, like Shinobu Kocho, who served as the insect Hashira, relied entirely on wisteria poison to kill demons because she lacked the physical strength to cut off their heads with a sword. So, when new members get their ranks engraved using wisteria, it connects them to the same plant that has been protecting demon slayers and helping them fight demons for generations. The wisteria flower stands as a powerful symbol for the entire organization. A long time ago, a family was saved from demons by the Demon Slayer Corps. To show their thanks, this family designed their family crest with a wisteria flower, so Corps members would always be able to recognize their home and stay there free of charge. This tradition continues, with certain families throughout Japan offering safe houses marked with wisteria to traveling demon slayers. The engraving process itself uses technology called wisteria engraving. The exact details of how this technology works are not widely explained, but what matters is the result. The process may cause an itchy or tickling sensation on the swordsman's hand as the rank gets permanently marked into their skin. Every new member begins at the same starting point, classified as Mizunoto, which is the lowest rank within the organization. This rank gets marked on the back of their hand during the onboarding ceremony on Mount Fujikasane. The marking happens in a specific location on the hand, always on the back, where it can be revealed when needed. Here's where things get interesting about the wisteria engraving. You can't see it just by looking at someone's hand. The marking is there, embedded in the skin, but it stays hidden under normal circumstances. The rank symbol only becomes visible when the Demon Slayer wants to check it. This serves a practical purpose, keeping the rank private unless the Demon Slayer chooses to reveal it. The way they activate the marking is through a specific combination of actions. A Demon Slayer must say a password and clench their fist at the same time. When they do this, the symbol of their rank literally swells up on the back of their hand as the muscles expand underneath. The password is kept secret and known only to members of the Corps, adding an extra layer of security to the system. When the Demon Slayer flexes their hand in this specific way while saying the password, the rank symbol appears on the surface of their skin, visible for anyone to see. This proves what level they've reached in the Corps and shows their current standing within the organization. The symbol stays visible as long as they keep their fist clenched, and then disappears again when they relax their hand. This means a Demon Slayer can check their current rank at any time, anywhere they are, by simply performing this quick action. Many Demon Slayers go long periods without checking their rank because they're focused on more important matters, like completing missions and slaying demons. Some demon slayers, like Tanjiro Kamado, had no idea they were climbing up through the ranks because they never bothered to check using the Wisteria flower engraving technique until someone showed them how. The Demon Slayer Corps uses a 10-rank system to organize its members based on their skill, experience, and accomplishments in battle. These ranks follow a specific order, each with its own name and symbol. From lowest rank to highest, the ranks are Mizunoto, Mizunoe, Kanoto, Kanoe, Tsuchinoto, Tsuchinoe, Hinoto, Hinoe, Kinoto, and Kinoe. The names for these 10 Demon Slayer ranks come from the Heavenly Stems, which was a system for counting days during China's Shang Dynasty thousands of years ago. The Heavenly Stems were used alongside something called the Earthly Branches in a system for counting up to 60 years. Each rank name contains a prefix that connects to one of the 5 phases in ancient Chinese philosophy. The prefix Mizu means water, Ka means metal, Suchi means earth, Hai means fire, and Ki means wood. These 5 elements appear throughout the ranking system in pairs, creating the 10 distinct ranks. Starting at Mizunoto means starting at the absolute bottom. Every single person who passes final selection receives this rank, no exceptions. The main characters of Demon Slayer, including Tanjiro Kamado, Zenitsu Agatsuma, and Inosuke Hashibira, all started as Mizunoto after surviving their final selection. Mizunoto is the rank for beginners, for people who are brand new to the organization and still learning how everything works. A Mizunoto Demon Slayer has proven they can survive against demons in combat, but they haven't yet shown the higher levels of skill and dedication needed to move up. They receive missions appropriate for their skill level, usually dealing with weaker demons that have only killed a few people. Moving up through the ranks requires completing various missions successfully and proving yourself as a skilled and dedicated member of the Corps. The promotion process doesn't follow a set pattern that anyone can see. Demon Slayers don't get notified when they rank up. The organization tracks their accomplishments and updates their rank automatically, but the Demon Slayer only knows about it if they check using the Wisteria engraving technique. This means someone could go from Mizunoto to Mizunoe to Kanoto without ever realizing it, continuing to fight demons while their rank symbol on their hand changes to reflect their growing abilities. The ranking system exists for important strategic reasons. The threat level from demons varies dramatically depending on which demon shows up. Some demons are relatively weak, having only killed 2 or 3 people before getting caught and placed on Mount Fujikasane for final selection. Other demons are incredibly powerful, capable of killing dozens or even hundreds of people. The lower ranks and upper ranks of the 12 Kizuki are in a completely different league, requiring the most skilled Demon Slayers to defeat them. By having 10 ranks, the Demon Slayer Corps can send members with the appropriate skill level to handle each threat. Lower-ranked members like Mizunoto and Mizunoe get sent on simpler missions against weaker demons. Higher-ranked members like Hino, Kanoto, and Kano take on the really dangerous assignments. This keeps lower-ranked members from getting killed in battles they're not ready for, while making sure the most skilled fighters remain available for the worst threats. As Demon Slayers complete more missions and slay more demons, they naturally work their way up through the ranks. Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu discovered they had all reached the rank of Kanoe, which is the 4th rank from the bottom, after their time fighting demons alongside Kyojuro Rengoku on the Mugen Train. Later, it was revealed that all 3 had climbed even higher to reach Hino, the 3rd highest rank, after they helped the sound Hashira Tengen Uzui defeat upper rank 6 of the 12 Kizuki. The exact requirements for each promotion remain unclear, and there's no indication of whether Demon Slayers can skip ranks by performing exceptional feats. What's certain is that the Corps tracks everything its members do and adjusts their ranks accordingly. Reaching Kano, the highest of the 10 ranks, marks a major achievement. Someone who holds the rank of Kano is among the most respected people within the Demon Slayer organization. Very few Demon Slayers ever reach this level because of how difficult it is and the impressive skill required. Akinoe has proven themselves in countless battles and demonstrated mastery of their breathing style techniques. But even Kino isn't the top of the ladder. Above the standard 10-rank system sits an elite group that operates on a different level entirely. The Hashira are 9 Demon Slayers who have transcended the normal ranking system. They represent the very best the Demon Slayer Corps has to offer, the most powerful combatants in the entire organization. The Hashira are second only to the Corps leader, Kagaya Ubuyashiki, in terms of respect and responsibility. They serve as the main fighting force against the most dangerous demons, handling threats that would kill regular demon slayers instantly. To become eligible to join the Hashira, a demon slayer must meet strict requirements. The first option is reaching the rank of Kinoue and then successfully killing 50 demons while holding that rank. The second option is killing one member of the 12 Kizuki, the elite demons who serve directly under Muzan Kibutsuji. Either accomplishment proves the demon slayer has reached the highest level of combat ability. Once someone becomes a Hashira, their Wisteria engraving changes. Instead of showing a rank symbol when they flex their hand and say the password, the engraving displays their distinguished title as a Hashira, reflecting their elevated status within the Corps. The Hashira receive special privileges that regular demon slayers don't get. They can request any resources or equipment they need for their missions. They get paid as much as they want, which is why some Hashira live in huge mansions, while others choose to live in humble homes. The Hashira wear uniforms with gold-colored buttons, while lower-ranked demon slayers have silver buttons, making it easy to identify a Hashira even from a distance. Each Hashira is allowed to customize their uniform however they want, often wearing a traditional Japanese jacket called a haori, with unique designs that represent their personality or breathing style. Between Kinoue and Hashira, there exists another special rank called Tsuguko. A Tsuguko is a highly talented demon slayer who has been designated as the successor to one of the 9 Hashira. When a Hashira retires from active duty or dies in battle, their Tsuguko is meant to inherit their position and become the next Hashira of that type. To become a Tsuguko, a demon slayer can either apply for the position and get accepted through official channels or get scouted directly by one of the current Hashira who sees potential in them. Tsuguko typically learn and use the same breathing style as their Hashira mentor, though this isn't a strict requirement. The training is intense and personal, with the Tsuguko working closely with the Hashira to develop the skills needed to eventually fill that role. Kanao Tsuyuri served as the Tsuguko to her older adoptive sister, Shinobu Kocho, the insect Hashira. The Wisteria engraving serves as a constant reminder of where each demon slayer stands in the organization and how far they've come since passing final selection. That mark on the back of their hand tracks their entire journey through the Corps, changing as they grow stronger and more experienced. From the moment they clench their fist and see that Mizunoto symbol appear for the first time, they're connected to every other member of the Demon Slayer Corps through this shared mark. The same poison that demons fear, the same flower that traps them on mountains and dissolves their bodies, is the same substance used to permanently mark each demon slayer's rank into their skin. Every time they flex their hand and speak that secret password, revealing the symbol that shows how far they've climbed through the 10 ranks, they're reminded of the organization's long history and the plant that has helped them survive in their fight against demons for generations. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Nichiren swords are forged to absorb sunlight, which is why they work against demons. Nichiren swords are made to drink sunlight. Demons in the world of Demon Slayer can heal from almost any injury in seconds. Cut off their arm and it grows back. Stab them through the chest and the wound closes up like nothing happened. Regular weapons are completely useless against them because of this incredible regeneration ability. A demon could be shot, stabbed, or sliced apart with a normal sword, and it would just laugh and keep attacking. This makes demons nearly impossible to kill for ordinary humans. But the Demon Slayer Corps has a solution. They use special swords called Nichiren swords that are specifically designed to kill demons. These weapons are forged from a unique ore that constantly absorbs sunlight, which is one of the only things in the entire world that can actually harm demons. Sunlight is a demon's greatest weakness. When a demon gets exposed to direct sunlight, their body starts burning and disintegrating until nothing remains but ash. This is why demons only come out at night and hide during the day. They physically cannot survive in sunlight. The Demon Slayer Corps figured out how to weaponize this weakness by creating swords that carry the power of the sun inside them. Nichiren swords absorb sunlight into the metal itself, making them lethal to demons in a way that normal steel could never be. When a demon slayer cuts through a demon's neck with a Nichiren sword, the demon's head and body both disintegrate into ash, exactly like what happens when sunlight touches them. The demon dies permanently with no chance of regeneration. The name Nichiren comes from Japanese words that relate to the sun. The word can translate to either sun ring or solar. making it clear that these weapons are connected to the sun's power. Some people also call them sun blades for this reason. The swords have another nickname too. They're known as color-changing katanas because of a special property that makes each sword unique. When a demon slayer picks up their Nichiren sword for the very first time, the blade changes color right in front of them. The color that appears is different for every person and connects to their personality, their fighting style, and the type of breathing technique they use in combat. Creating a Nichiren sword requires very specific materials that are extremely rare and difficult to obtain. The swords are forged using two special substances called scarlet crimson iron sand and scarlet ore. Both of these materials have to be collected from the highest mountains where they can absorb massive amounts of sunlight all year long. These mountains stand above the clouds, meaning they get bathed in direct sunlight every single day without any interference from rain, snow, or cloud cover blocking the sun's rays. The ore sits on these mountain peaks for extended periods, soaking up sunlight constantly until it becomes charged with solar energy. This is what gives the ore its demon-killing properties. The scarlet crimson iron sand and scarlet ore are real materials that exist in Japanese mythology. In ancient legends, there was a metal called Hihi Irokane, which literally means brilliant scarlet metal. This mythical metal was said to shine brightly in a way that resembled flames or the sun itself. People believed it had magical properties, similar to other legendary ores from different cultures like orichalcum from Greek and Roman myths. The creators of Demon Slayer based the Nichiren sword materials on these ancient legends. Even the real-world version of the iron sand used in the story is known to heat up when exposed to direct sunlight, capable of causing minor first-degree burns if someone touches it without proper protection. Only one place in the entire country can forge Nichiren swords properly. This place is called the Swordsmith Village, and it's kept completely secret from everyone outside the Demon Slayer Corps. The village is hidden deep within a dense forest, and nobody knows its exact location except for the people who live there. The secrecy exists to protect the swordsmiths from demon attacks. If demons ever discovered where the village was located, they could wipe out all the swordsmiths in one night, and the Demon Slayer Corps would lose their only source of demon-killing weapons. Without Nichiren swords, the Corps would be powerless to fight demons effectively. The security measures around the Swordsmith village are extremely strict. When a demon slayer needs to visit the village, they can't just walk there or get directions. Instead, they have to ride on the back of a Kakushi, which is a support staff member of the Demon Slayer Corps. But here's the important part. The Demon Slayer has to travel completely blindfolded with earplugs in their ears and their nose plugged so they can't smell anything. This prevents them from creating any kind of mental map of how to get to the village. They have no idea which direction they're traveling, how long the journey takes, or what landmarks they pass along the way. After some time during the journey, one Kakushi will pass them to another Kakushi, and then maybe to another one after that. The routes to the village and the Kakushi who guide people there get changed frequently, so there's no pattern that could be discovered. The village has existed for over 300 years, serving as the central hub for weapon creation and repair for the entire Demon Slayer Corps. Inside the village, there are bustling foundries and workshops where skilled swordsmiths spend their days forging and repairing Nichiren swords. These artisans live right there in the village alongside their workspaces. The swordsmiths are highly skilled craftsmen who undergo rigorous training to master the delicate balance of heat, pressure, and timing required to forge these special blades. Creating a Nichiren sword is both meticulous and sacred work. The swordsmiths pour their hearts and souls into every blade they create because they know that demon slayers trust these weapons with their lives. Every single swordsmith in the village wears a mask at all times. These masks are called Hayatoko masks, and they show exaggerated comical human faces, with the mouth puckered to one side. The word Hayatoko comes from combining the Japanese words for fire and man, which makes sense for blacksmiths who work with intense heat all day. The real purpose of these masks is to keep the swordsmiths' identities completely hidden. If a demon somehow captured a demon slayer and tortured them for information about the swordsmiths, the demon slayer would have no idea what any swordsmith actually looks like. The masks protect the swordsmiths from being tracked down or targeted by demons. The forging process for Nichiren swords is incredibly detailed. Swordsmiths start by carefully selecting the finest scarlet crimson iron sand and scarlet ore. They heat the materials, fold them, and temper the metal with extreme precision. The whole process must maintain the ore's sunlight-absorbing properties, which means the swordsmiths have to be incredibly careful about temperature and technique. Each Nichiren sword is custom-made for its wielder. After a new Demon Slayer passes the final selection exam, they get to choose their preferred ore from several samples. The ore they select will be used by a swordsmith to forge their personal weapon. The swordsmith then works on creating the blade, and when it's finished, they personally deliver the weapon to the Demon Slayer. This delivery happens about 2 weeks after the final selection ends. Here's where things get really interesting about Nichiren swords. The blade starts out as normal-looking metal with no special color, but the moment a Demon Slayer draws the sword for the very first time, the blade changes color instantly. This color transformation only happens if the person holding the sword has a certain level of skill with breathing techniques. If someone with no training or ability tries to draw a Nichiren sword, nothing happens and the blade stays colorless. But when a properly trained Demon Slayer draws their weapon, the blade reacts to them and takes on a distinct color that reflects who they are as a person and as a fighter. The color that appears connects directly to the type of breathing style that Demon Slayer is best suited for. Breathing styles are special combat techniques that Demon Slayers use to enhance their physical abilities and deliver powerful attacks. Each breathing style is based on different elements or concepts from nature, and each one has an associated blade color. For example, Demon Slayers who use water breathing typically get blue blades. The blue color represents the calm, flowing nature of water and matches the personality of water-breathing users who tend to be tranquil and adaptable in combat. Gyu Tomioka, who serves as the Water Hashira, wields a blue Nichiren sword that perfectly matches his steady, controlled fighting style. Demon Slayers who practice flame breathing get red blades. The red color symbolizes intensity, passion, and unyielding spirit. Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, carried a red Nichiren sword that matched his fiery personality and explosive fighting style. Thunder-breathing users receive yellow blades. Zenitsu Agatsuma's sword is especially unique because instead of being solid yellow, it has a lightning bolt pattern that travels down the length of the blade in yellow coloration. The reason for this patterning was never fully explained, but when Tanjiro received a new sword from the swordsmith Hotaru Haganezuka mentioned that the previous owner of that blade must have been a very strong swordsman. This suggests that higher skill levels can create patterns or slight variations in how a Nichiren sword's color appears. Wind breathing is represented by green blades. Sanemi Shinazugawa, the Wind Hashira, wields an emerald green Nichiren sword that matches his boisterous and aggressive fighting style. His blade can unleash tornadoes of slashes on any demon unlucky enough to face him in battle. Stone breathing gives gray blades. However, Gyome Himejima, the Stone Hashira, breaks the traditional pattern because he doesn't use a sword at all. Instead, his Nichiren weapon is a massive gray axe connected by a chain to a flail. He crushes demons' heads rather than slicing them off cleanly like other Demon Slayers do. Mist breathing produces white blades. Muichiro Tokito, the Mist Hashira, carries a white Nichiren sword that represents detachment and mental clarity, matching the quiet and elusive nature of mist breathing. His fighting style involves disorienting attacks that seem to fade in and out like actual mist. Some Demon Slayers have developed specialized breathing styles that are technically offshoots of the main styles, and these give unique blade colors. Shinobu Kocho, the Insect Hashira, uses insect breathing, which is actually a subset of water breathing. Her blade is light purple or lavender in color, still close to water's blue, but distinct enough to show that her style is different. Her Nichiren sword is also shaped differently from a normal katana. It's more like a thin rod that ends in a needle-like tip, designed specifically for injecting wisteria poison into demons rather than cutting them. Since Shinobu lacks the physical strength needed to decapitate demons with a regular sword. Serpent breathing produces lavender-colored blades. Obanai Iguro, the Serpent Hashira, wields a twisted Nichiren sword that can bend and slither to resemble an actual snake. This blade requires a specialized scabbard to hold it properly, and Obanai can only unsheath it vertically because of its unusual shape. The serpentine blade allows him to make unpredictable attacks that can cut through tiny openings in a demon's defense. Sound breathing creates amber or orange-colored blades. Tengen Uzui, the Sound Hashira, is unique because he wields two massive amber-colored cleavers connected by a chain instead of a single sword. His dual weapons match his flashy personality and explosive fighting style perfectly. The most mysterious blade color in the entire series is black. Black Nichiren swords are extremely rare, and nobody really understands their properties or what they mean. Throughout history, demon slayers who wielded black blades were surrounded by superstition and bad omens. People believed that demon slayers with black swords would die young before anyone could learn much about the blade's true nature. This made black blades seem like a curse rather than a blessing. Tanjiro Kamado, the main character of Demon Slayer, receives a black Nichiren sword when he first draws his weapon. The swordsmith who delivered it admitted he wasn't familiar with black blades and seemed concerned about the color. Despite the scary reputation of black blades, there's actually a reason why Tanjiro's sword turned black. Black Nichiren swords are secretly associated with sun breathing, which is the original and most powerful breathing style that ever existed. All other breathing styles in the Demon Slayer Corps were derived from sun breathing. Tanjiro's family practiced something called Hinokami Kagura, which they believed was a ritual or ceremonial dance. But this was actually sun breathing disguised as a tradition, passed down through generations of his family. Since Tanjiro had this connection to sun breathing through his family, his blade turned black even though he was mostly using water breathing techniques during his early days as a demon slayer. Later in the story, Tanjiro learns to properly use sun breathing, and his black blade proves to be incredibly powerful, breaking the superstition that black blades bring bad luck. Inosuke Hashibira uses two Nichiren swords at the same time, and both blades are indigo gray in color. This represents his beast breathing style, which is actually a derivative of wind breathing. Inosuke's swords are unusual because when he first received them, they had normal sharp blades like any other Nichiren sword. But Inosuke deliberately used rocks to chip and break the blades in multiple spots. This left him with swords that have jagged teeth-like edges instead of smooth-cutting surfaces. These damaged-looking blades tear through demonic flesh at multiple points instead of making clean slices. The jagged design matches Inosuke's wild, unpredictable fighting style perfectly. He doesn't even use proper handles, handguards, or scabbards for his swords. He wraps cloth bandages around the handles to create a temporary grip that suits him. Mitsuri Kanroji, the Love Hashira, wields a Nichiren sword unlike any other in the Corps. Her blade is dark pink and has a whip-like quality to it. The sword is extremely flexible and can bend in ways that normal swords never could. This unique weapon matches her love-breathing technique and allows her to make sweeping attacks that cover a huge area. Some characters have even more unusual Nichiren weapons. Genya Shinazugawa doesn't just use a sword, he also carries a shotgun that fires special ammunition called Nichiren shells. These bullets are made from the same sun-absorbing ore as Nichiren swords, which means they can actually harm demons when fired from a gun. There's one more special property that Nichiren swords can have in certain circumstances. Under the right conditions, a Nichiren sword can turn bright red instead of its normal color. This transformation happens when the blade's temperature rises significantly. A bright red Nichiren sword is far more powerful than a normal one. The red blade can stop a demon's regeneration abilities completely and causes extreme pain to demons, even from wounds that would normally heal instantly. There are only 3 known ways to turn a Nichiren sword bright red. The first method involves using Nezuko Kamado's blood demon art, which can set things on fire. The second method requires raising the temperature of the blade through an extremely strong grip, but this can only be done by demon slayers who have awakened their demon slayer mark. The third method involves clashing 2 Nichiren swords together with tremendous force, but again, this only works when the demon slayer mark is present. Yoriichi Tsugikuni was the most powerful demon slayer who ever lived, and the original creator of breathing techniques. His Nichiren sword was black normally, but it would turn into a glowing bright red during combat. This transformation showed his complete mastery over sun breathing. Yoriichi's red blade was so powerful that he nearly killed Muzan Kibutsuji, the king of all demons, in a single encounter. Later in the story, Tanjiro's black blade also transforms into a bright red color during important battles, following in Yoriichi's footsteps and unlocking the true potential of the sun-breathing technique. When a demon slayer reaches the rank of Hashira, their Nichiren sword gets a special engraving added to it. The words "Destroyer of Demons" get inscribed on the blade in Japanese characters. This engraving marks them as one of the elite 9 fighters who stand at the top of the Demon Slayer Corps. Hashira also have different uniform buttons compared to regular demon slayers. Regular members wear uniforms with silver buttons, while Hashira wear uniforms with gold-colored buttons. This makes it easy to identify a Hashira at a glance, even before you see their sword. The Swordsmith Village also contains other important facilities beyond just the forging workshops. The village has mechanical training dolls that demon slayers can use to practice their combat skills. One of these training dolls is called Yoriichi Type 0, created to mimic the fighting style of the legendary Yoriichi Tsugikuni. The village also features a hot spring on top of a scenic hill. The therapeutic waters of this hot spring have incredible healing properties. A long soak can help with cuts, burns, and all kinds of health problems, including muscle pain, joint pain, and various other ailments. Demon slayers often visit the hot spring to recover from injuries between missions. The relationship between demon slayers and swordsmiths is one of deep mutual respect and reliance. Demon slayers entrust their lives to these master craftsmen, understanding that their weapons are more than just tools. A Nichiren sword is an extension of a demon slayer's own strength and determination. In return, swordsmiths take enormous pride in their work. They know that every blade they forge plays a crucial role in the ongoing battle against demons. Some swordsmiths are extremely particular about how their swords get treated. Hotaru Haganezuka, the swordsmith who creates Tanjiro's weapons, is famous for becoming absolutely furious whenever Tanjiro's sword gets damaged or broken. He once chased Tanjiro all around the Butterfly Mansion because Tanjiro had broken yet another sword that Haganezuka had carefully forged. After the Demon Slayer Corps finally defeated all the demons in a war that lasted over 1,000 years, the organization was disbanded. The Swordsmith Village closed down since there were no more demons to fight and no more need for Nichiren swords. The surviving demon slayers laid down their weapons and moved on with their new lives in a demon-free world. The few Nichiren swords that remained became household mementos for the descendants of demon slayers, treasured family heirlooms that represented a time when humanity had to fight against supernatural evil. The breathing styles that demon slayers used were also passed down through families, preserved as historical traditions, even though they were no longer needed for actual combat. Nichiren swords represent hope in the world of Demon Slayer. They prove that humans, despite being weaker and more vulnerable than demons, can fight back with intelligence, craftsmanship, and determination. The swords harness the power of the sun itself, turning demons' greatest weakness into a weapon that can be carried and wielded by ordinary people. Every color that appears on a blade tells a story about the Demon Slayer who wields it. Every swing of a Nichiren sword in battle represents years of training, the skill of master swordsmiths, and humanity's refusal to give up even when facing monsters that seem impossible to kill. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Yoriichi was so overwhelmingly strong that Muzan never recovered from their first encounter. Yoriichi was so powerful that Muzan never recovered from their first battle. Yoriichi Tsugikuni was the strongest demon slayer who ever lived, and his single encounter with Muzan Kibutsuji changed the course of demon slayer history forever. This battle took place nearly 500 years ago during the Sengoku period in a bamboo forest. Muzan had just turned Yoriichi's older twin brother Michikatsu into an upper-ranked demon named Kokushibo. Muzan and Tamayo were traveling through the forest when they encountered Yoriichi. This meeting would become the only time in the entire series that Muzan, the king of all demons, was completely overpowered by a single demon slayer. The fight lasted mere moments, but the psychological scars it left on Muzan lasted for centuries. When Yoriichi first laid eyes on Muzan, he felt something he'd never experienced before. A chill ran down his spine as he sensed Muzan's violent intent and evil nature. Yoriichi later described the feeling as being near an erupting volcano, with boiling magma threatening to consume everything in its path. The Demon King radiated pure malice and destruction. This was the first time Yoriichi ever felt genuine fear when facing an opponent. He understood immediately that even a single scratch from Muzan could be fatal. Muzan's attacks were frighteningly fast, and his reach was enormous. The bladed whip-like arms that Muzan generated could cut through multiple bamboo trees behind Yoriichi in a single sweep. Muzan, on the other hand, felt nothing threatening from Yoriichi at all. The Demon Slayer appeared calm and showed no bloodlust, no killing intent, no hatred, and no willpower that Muzan could sense. This lack of detectable hostility made Yoriichi seem weak and unthreatening. Muzan casually stated that he wasn't interested in demon slayers who used breathing styles, dismissing Yoriichi as just another swordsman who would die easily. The moment Muzan finished speaking, he unleashed his bladed arms without warning and tried to kill Yoriichi outright. He attacked with complete confidence, expecting an easy victory. Yoriichi dodged the attacks effortlessly. As Muzan's strikes missed their target and cut through the bamboo forest around them, Yoriichi activated his special ability called the Transparent World. This heightened perception allowed him to see inside Muzan's body and observe how the Demon King's internal organs were structured. What Yoriichi discovered shocked him. Muzan didn't have a normal anatomy like other demons. Inside his body, Muzan possessed 7 hearts and 5 brains that could move freely and change positions within his body at will. This made Muzan nearly impossible to kill through conventional means, since destroying 1 heart or 1 brain wouldn't be enough. All of his vital organs would need to be destroyed simultaneously to kill him. In that instant, seeing Muzan's unique internal structure, Yoriichi perfected the final form of sun breathing. He had been developing and refining the 12 forms of sun breathing throughout his life, but now he understood what was needed. Yoriichi combined all 12 forms of sun breathing into a single devastating attack, creating the 13th form. This technique was specifically designed to cut through all of Muzan's 7 hearts and 5 brains at once, preventing any of them from surviving. Yoriichi's Nichirin sword turned bright red as he executed this attack. In a single move, he sliced through every single one of Muzan's vital organs and dismembered the Demon King's body completely. Muzan lay on the ground in a pool of his own blood, stunned and unable to understand what had just happened. For the first time in centuries, Muzan experienced genuine fear and despair. He tried desperately to regenerate his severed body parts and reattach his head, but nothing happened. His regeneration abilities simply stopped working. His body refused to heal. Muzan held his severed head in place manually to keep it from falling off completely, but the wound wouldn't connect. The bright red Nichirin sword had completely stopped his regeneration, something no demon slayer had ever accomplished before. Yoriichi stood over the defeated Demon King, knowing that his bright red blade would work even on the progenitor of all demons. But before finishing Muzan off, Yoriichi wanted to ask him something. He looked down at the demon and asked a simple question: "What is the value of a life to you?" Muzan remained silent, only staring at Yoriichi with rage in his eyes. His face swelled dark red, which Yoriichi interpreted as anger. Yoriichi believed his words hadn't reached the demon at all, that Muzan was too consumed by hatred to answer. Yoriichi's attention briefly turned to Tamayo, the demon woman who had been traveling with Muzan. He noticed something unusual about her expression. Tamayo wasn't looking at Muzan with concern or attempting to help him. Instead, she stared at the dismembered Demon King with eyes shining with hope and eagerness. She wanted Muzan to die. This told Yoriichi that Tamayo was different from other demons, that she might be an ally rather than an enemy. He decided to deal with her after finishing off Muzan first. As Yoriichi took a step forward to deliver the killing blow, he heard an unusual sound. Muzan's teeth were grinding together with tremendous force, breaking and clenching. Suddenly, without any warning, Muzan's entire body exploded with massive force. The Demon King's body burst into tiny fragments that scattered in every direction. Muzan had split himself into exactly 1,800 pieces of flesh. Each piece flew away from Yoriichi at high speed, spreading out in all directions like an explosive blast. This was Muzan's desperate last resort, a survival tactic he'd never needed to use before this moment. The explosion caught Yoriichi completely off guard. He hadn't expected Muzan to be capable of such a technique. But even with the element of surprise working against him, Yoriichi's incredible speed and reflexes allowed him to react instantly. In the split second after Muzan exploded, Yoriichi had to process what had just happened, realize it was an escape attempt, identify the location of each flesh piece, calculate the optimal path to cut as many pieces as possible, and execute precise strikes before any pieces could escape beyond his reach. Yoriichi immediately cut 1,500 of the 1,800 total pieces of flesh on the spot. His sword moved so fast that he destroyed most of Muzan's exploded body before the pieces could scatter beyond his range. The remaining 300 pieces were too small for Yoriichi to cut. These surviving fragments quickly escaped into the distance to regenerate elsewhere. Yoriichi estimated that if all 300 remaining pieces were put together, they would be roughly the size of a human head. That was enough. Muzan had survived. The Demon King would be able to regenerate his entire body from just those 300 tiny pieces. Tamayo collapsed on the floor and began to weep, tearing at her own hair in frustration and anger. She cursed Muzan, saying he should have died. She was surprised that she managed to survive despite saying Muzan's name out loud, since demons who spoke his name were usually killed by him remotely through his blood control. Yoriichi approached Tamayo and calmed her down. She eagerly told him everything she knew about Muzan. He was the progenitor of all demons, the original demon from whom every other demon descended. She explained that Muzan would most likely never appear before Yoriichi again after this humiliating defeat. Yoriichi asked for Tamayo's help in eventually defeating Muzan, and she agreed. He allowed her to escape rather than killing her, recognizing that she had sad eyes and didn't want to serve Muzan anymore. She had been freed from Muzan's curse because he was too weakened to maintain his control over her in that moment. When Yoriichi returned to Demon Slayer Corps headquarters, he faced severe consequences. The other Demon Slayers were furious with him for 3 major failures. First, he had failed to kill Muzan despite having him completely defeated. Second, he had let Tamayo escape instead of killing her. Third, his own older brother Michikatsu had been transformed into a demon while Yoriichi was in the area. The Demon Slayers confronted him angrily about all of these failures. As punishment, Yoriichi was banished from the Demon Slayer Corps entirely. Some Demon Slayers even demanded that Yoriichi commit seppuku as an act of taking responsibility. However, the newly assigned leader of the Corps refused to allow that to happen, protecting Yoriichi from that fate despite his banishment. Muzan was deeply scarred by his encounter with Yoriichi. The experience traumatized him in ways that would shape his behavior for the next 5 centuries. For the first time since becoming a demon, Muzan had experienced genuine fear of death. He had been completely powerless against Yoriichi, unable to land a single hit on the Demon Slayer while being utterly destroyed in seconds. Muzan came to view Yoriichi as the true monster between the two of them. He couldn't understand how a human being like Yoriichi could possibly exist. Everything about Yoriichi defied Muzan's understanding of human limitations. After recovering from his injuries, Muzan made it his life's mission to ensure that nothing like Yoriichi would ever threaten him again. Working together with Kokushibo, who was now an upper-ranked demon, Muzan systematically hunted down and slaughtered everyone who used sun-breathing. They tracked down every single sun-breathing practitioner they could find and killed them. The goal was to completely eradicate sun-breathing from existence, preventing another warrior with Yoriichi's power from ever arising. They were almost entirely successful. By the time they finished their campaign, sun-breathing had been nearly exterminated. Only one family managed to preserve it, disguised as a ceremonial dance called the Hinokami Kagura. Muzan's fear of Yoriichi changed his entire approach to fighting Demon Slayers. Before meeting Yoriichi, Muzan had been arrogant and occasionally confronted Demon Slayers himself. After their battle, Muzan never again directly confronted the Demon Slayer Corps. Instead, he sent his demons to do his bidding, while he remained hidden in the shadows. He became obsessed with staying away from any potential threat that might be similar to Yoriichi. This fear persisted even after Yoriichi's death. Muzan remained fearful of the legendary swordsman for the rest of his existence, unable to shake the trauma of being so completely overpowered. Even 400 years after Yoriichi's death, Muzan's fear remained fully intact. When Muzan encountered Tanjiro Kamado in Asakusa, Tokyo, he immediately recognized the Hanafuda earrings that Tanjiro wore. These were the same earrings that Yoriichi had worn during their battle centuries ago. The moment Muzan saw those earrings, he experienced intense flashbacks to his encounter with Yoriichi. The memory came flooding back with all the fear and helplessness he had felt in that bamboo forest. This is why Muzan instantly decided that Tanjiro needed to be eliminated as quickly as possible. He created a distraction by turning a random passerby into a demon, then escaped, while ordering his subordinate demons to hunt down and kill the Demon Slayer, wearing the Hanafuda earrings. Later, when Muzan met with his Lower Moon demons, he specifically ordered them to kill the Demon Slayer with the Hanafuda earrings. During this meeting, Muzan had another flashback to his battle against Yoriichi. He vividly remembered the fear he felt when he was about to die, when his body refused to regenerate, and Yoriichi stood over him ready to deliver the final blow. The trauma was so powerful that just seeing earrings that resembled Yoriichi's caused Muzan to panic and become frantic. His past had literally come back to haunt him. The reason Muzan targeted and killed Tanjiro's entire family had multiple layers. First, the Kamado family had unknowingly preserved the sun-breathing technique through the Hinokami Kagura dance passed down through generations. Second, Tanjiro's ancestors had been close friends with Yoriichi himself. Yoriichi had taught the sun-breathing forms to Sumiyoshi, Tanjiro's ancestor, and had given him the Hanafuda earrings before leaving. Muzan wanted to completely eradicate the Kamado lineage to prevent any new users of sun-breathing from emerging. He wanted to eliminate anyone who had any connection whatsoever to Yoriichi or his technique. When Tanjiro began using sun-breathing in battle, Muzan's reactions became even more extreme. During their final confrontation, Muzan repeatedly saw Yoriichi's visage and image overlapping with Tanjiro. The ghost of his former enemy appeared before him whenever Tanjiro executed sun-breathing forms. Muzan felt disgust and fear simultaneously. Even though Tanjiro's technique was far from Yoriichi's level of mastery, the mere fact that someone was using sun-breathing again triggered all of Muzan's trauma. He became desperate to kill Tanjiro before the young demon slayer could grow stronger and potentially become another Yoriichi. The battle between Yoriichi and Muzan fundamentally proves how powerful Yoriichi was compared to every other character in the series. No other demon slayer in history came even remotely close to defeating Muzan the way Yoriichi did. When the entire Demon Slayer Corps, including all 9 Hashira and Tanjiro working together, fought Muzan in the final battle centuries later, they struggled desperately and barely managed to survive until sunrise. Even with everyone's combined efforts, they couldn't overpower Muzan the way Yoriichi had done alone. Yoriichi had defeated Muzan in seconds, cutting through all his vital organs and nearly killing him before Muzan escaped through his explosion technique. Muzan's fear of Yoriichi was so profound that it shaped 500 years of Demon Slayer history. His obsession with eradicating sun-breathing nearly succeeded, forcing the technique to survive only in disguise. His refusal to directly confront Demon Slayers after meeting Yoriichi meant that he relied entirely on his subordinate demons to fight for him. His desperate search for a demon who could walk in sunlight was partly motivated by his desire to overcome his weakness so he could finally be safe from anyone like Yoriichi. His immediate recognition of Tanjiro's earrings and his frantic orders to eliminate Tanjiro showed that the trauma never faded. Yoriichi remained the only being in the entire series that Muzan ever truly feared. Muzan personally saw Yoriichi as the real demon between the two of them. To the very end of his existence, Muzan remained baffled by how someone like Yoriichi could possibly exist. He never understood where Yoriichi's power came from or how a human could be so overwhelmingly stronger than the Demon King. The psychological impact of being cut into nearly 1,500 pieces in a single barrage, of having his regeneration completely stopped, of experiencing genuine fear of death for the first time in centuries, created a wound in Muzan's mind that never healed. Ultimately, Yoriichi's near-perfect victory over Muzan laid the foundation for the Demon King's eventual defeat 500 years later. The techniques Yoriichi developed, the knowledge about Muzan's internal structure that he shared, and the psychological damage he inflicted all contributed to Muzan's downfall. Even though Yoriichi failed to completely kill Muzan due to the explosion escape technique, he succeeded in proving that the Demon King could be defeated. He showed that Muzan wasn't truly invincible, that his regeneration could be stopped, that his vital organs could all be destroyed at once. This knowledge gave future generations of Demon Slayers hope that Muzan could eventually be killed. The fact that Muzan spent 500 years traumatized and fearful, constantly looking over his shoulder for another sun-breathing user, shows just how completely Yoriichi dominated him. Muzan never recovered from that first fight. The psychological scars were permanent. Every time Muzan encountered anything related to sun-breathing or Yoriichi, he trembled with fear and panic, reliving the worst moment of his entire existence. The Demon King, who terrorized humanity for 1,000 years, who created countless demons and killed thousands of people, was reduced to a frightened creature haunted by the memory of one man he could never defeat. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Nezuko is the first demon in history to overcome the sun. Nezuko is the first demon in history to conquer the sun. Throughout the history of demons in Demon Slayer, one absolute truth has remained unchanged for over 1,000 years. Every demon, no matter how powerful, dies instantly when exposed to sunlight. The sun is the ultimate weapon against demons, more reliable than any Nichiren sword or breathing technique. It doesn't matter if a demon is a weakling who has only killed a few people, or an upper-ranked demon from the 12 Kizuki with centuries of experience. Sunlight burns them all the same, turning their bodies to ash in seconds. This vulnerability has been the defining weakness of demonkind since Muzan Kibutsuji became the first demon over 1,000 years ago. Every demon created after him inherited this fatal flaw, until Nezuko Kamado achieved something that shattered this fundamental rule of the Demon Slayer universe. Nezuko became the first demon in history to conquer the sun. She walked in direct sunlight without burning, without dying, without suffering any harm at all. This achievement was so unprecedented, so impossible by every standard that had existed for centuries, that it fundamentally changed the entire trajectory of the final conflict between demons and demon slayers. When news of Nezuko's survival reached Muzan, the Demon King's reaction revealed just how significant this moment truly was. For the first time in centuries, Muzan showed genuine emotion beyond his usual cold detachment. He was ecstatic, overjoyed at the prospect of finally obtaining what he had desperately sought for over 1,000 years. The moment Nezuko conquered the sun happened during the climactic battle against Hantengu, the upper rank 4 demon, in the Swordsmith Village arc. The fight had been brutal and extended throughout the night. Tanjiro, along with the mist Hashira Muichiro Tokido and Nezuko herself, fought desperately against Hantengu and his multiple clones. The demon proved incredibly difficult to kill because his true body kept hiding inside smaller and smaller forms, constantly fleeing from the demon slayers. As dawn approached, Tanjiro finally located Hantengu's actual main body, hiding inside the heart of one of his giant clones. But there was a problem. The sun was rising. Tanjiro faced an impossible choice. He could either pursue Hantengu and kill him before he escaped, or he could run back to protect Nezuko from the sunlight that would burn her alive. If he chose to save Nezuko, Hantengu would escape and continue killing people. The demon was already attempting to grab nearby swordsmiths to devour them and recover his strength. If he chose to kill Hantengu, his sister would die. Tanjiro had spent years carrying Nezuko in a special sun-proof box to protect her from daylight. He had dedicated his entire existence to finding a way to turn her back into a human. Watching her burn to death in the sunrise would mean losing everything he had fought for. Tanjiro made his decision. He chose to kill Hantengu. With tears streaming down his face, he ran after the demon and struck the final blow, decapitating Hantengu's true body. As he did this, memories of Nezuko flooded his mind. He remembered her transformation into a demon, remembered carrying her to meet their teacher, Sakonji Urokodaki, remembered all their adventures together fighting demons side by side. He saw a final memory of Nezuko laughing while she was still human, and he watched as her eyes began to close in the sunlight. Tanjiro believed his sister was dying. Everyone else watching believed Nezuko was dying. The swordsmiths nearby prepared to witness her death. The sun rose fully, and its rays touched Nezuko's skin. She began to burn. Her body started to disintegrate, just like any other demon exposed to sunlight. For a brief moment, it seemed like the inevitable was happening, but then something extraordinary occurred. Nezuko's body regenerated. The burns healed. She stood back up, completely unharmed, standing in full sunlight. Not only had she survived, but she also began speaking clearly for the first time since becoming a demon. She greeted Tanjiro with a broken "good morning," struggling with words but managing to communicate. Tanjiro could barely process what he was seeing. He asked if she was all right, and despite her difficulty speaking, Nezuko repeated his question back to him, asking if he was all right instead. Realizing that Nezuko was truly alive and well, Tanjiro pulled her into a hug and sobbed uncontrollably in relief. The nearby swordsmiths watching also began to cry, thanking them both for saving their lives. Genya Shinazugawa, who had been fighting alongside them, climbed down from the cliff to reunite with the siblings and watched with a content smile at Nezuko's impossible survival. It was a miracle that nobody had predicted or thought possible. Nezuko had conquered the sun, becoming the first and only demon to ever accomplish this feat in over 1,000 years of demon history. Unfortunately for the demon slayers, Hantengu had managed to send information to Muzan before being completely destroyed. Through the blood connection that all demons shared with their progenitor, Hantengu informed Muzan about what he had witnessed. Nezuko Kamado, a demon who was not under Muzan's control, had survived direct sunlight. This news reached Muzan at the worst possible time for the heroes and the best possible time for the Demon King. Muzan's normally monotone and detached demeanor completely changed. He revealed a side of himself that stood in stark contrast to his usual composed personality. He was shown to be ecstatic, absolutely thrilled at the prospect of absorbing Nezuko to finally gain immunity to sunlight himself. Muzan's obsession with conquering the sun stretched back over 1,000 years to when he first became a demon. As a human during the Heian era, Muzan had been born with a terminal illness that would kill him before he reached 20 years old. His heart had stopped multiple times while still in his mother's womb. When he was born, doctors pronounced him stillborn with no pulse or breath. They were taking him for cremation when he suddenly cried out, narrowly escaping death. Throughout his youth, Muzan suffered from constant sickness and lived with an intense fear of death that never left him. A doctor attempted to treat Muzan's terminal illness using an experimental medicine. The treatment was still in its prototype stage and required multiple doses to complete properly. But Muzan, believing the medicine wasn't working, killed the doctor in a fit of rage before finishing the treatment. He later discovered that the medicine had actually worked, but in an unexpected way. It cured his illnesses and gave him an incredibly strong body with transformative blood that allowed him to create other demons. However, the incomplete treatment came with severe drawbacks. Muzan became unable to walk in sunlight without disintegrating into ash, and he developed an intense craving for human flesh. The medicine that transformed Muzan into a demon was created using a rare flower called the blue spider lily as its primary ingredient. After killing his doctor, Muzan deeply regretted his hasty action because he could never finish the treatment properly. He became obsessed with finding more blue spider lilies to replicate the medicine and potentially cure his weakness to sunlight. This obsession would consume the next 1,000 years of his existence. Muzan spent centuries personally searching all over Japan for the blue spider lily, but he never found it. He employed countless demons to help in the search, creating an army of subordinates who scoured the land looking for this one specific flower. The reason Muzan failed to find the blue spider lily for so long had a cruel irony to it. The flower only blooms during the daytime for 2 to 3 days per year. After blooming, it closes back up and resembles a large horsetail weed, making it nearly impossible to identify when not in bloom. In some climates and years, depending on conditions, the blue spider lily doesn't bloom at all. Muzan was hindered by his inability to go out during the day, which meant the one thing he needed most appeared only in the place he could never go. His demon subordinates could search at night, but finding the flower without seeing it bloom was essentially impossible. As the centuries passed with no success in locating the blue spider lily, Muzan developed an alternative plan. He began creating demons with large amounts of his blood, hoping that one of them would somehow evolve to withstand sunlight. His theory was simple but ruthless. If he could create a demon that conquered the sun through evolution or mutation, he could then absorb that demon's body and gain the ability for himself. This became his secondary goal alongside searching for the blue spider lily. Every demon Muzan created served a dual purpose. They were foot soldiers to help fight demon slayers and search for the flower, but they were also experiments. Muzan secretly hoped that one of them would be born with resistance to sunlight. The amount of blood Muzan gives a demon directly determines their power level. More blood makes stronger demons, but too much blood can destroy a weaker person from the inside out. Most humans who receive large amounts of Muzan's blood simply die, unable to handle the transformation. Muzan continued creating demons and experimenting for over 1,000 years, turning countless humans into demons, but none of them ever developed the ability to walk in sunlight. The 12 Kizuki, his elite demons, including all the upper ranks and lower ranks, were among the most powerful demons he had created. None of them could survive even a moment of direct sunlight. This failure frustrated Muzan constantly. His subordinates in the 12 Kizuki were frequently berated for their inability to find either the blue spider lily or any demon who could conquer the sun. After the flame Hashira Kyojuro Rengoku was killed by Akaza, the upper rank 3 demon, Muzan was not pleased despite this victory. Instead, he tortured Akaza for allowing 3 other demon slayers to survive and for failing to find any information about the blue spider lily. Later, when Muzan gathered the remaining upper ranks after the deaths of Gyutaro and Daki, he denounced them all, claiming they were no longer ranked by power, but by how much humanity remained in them. When Doma tried to placate his master by asking if he had ever failed Muzan, the Demon King responded by citing their failures in not finding the Ubuyashiki family and not finding the Blue Spider Lily. Muzan's desperation grew with each passing century. He had obtained immense power and practical immortality, but he considered himself imperfect and incomplete. His weakness to sunlight meant he could never truly be free. He had to hide in the shadows, operating only at night, constantly in fear that sunrise might catch him exposed. For someone as proud and arrogant as Muzan, this limitation was unbearable. It hurt his pride to hide in darkness while humans walked freely in daylight. He wanted absolute power, complete control, and true immortality without any weaknesses. The sun was the only thing standing between Muzan and his vision of perfection. When Muzan attacked the Kamado family at the beginning of the series, part of his motivation was experimentation. He injected certain members of the family with his blood, attempting to create demons. Most of them died from their injuries or failed to survive the transformation. Only Nezuko survived, becoming a demon herself. At first, Muzan believed this was a complete failure. He had no idea that Nezuko would become special. He certainly had no way of knowing that she would eventually accomplish what he had been trying to achieve for 1,000 years. Several factors may have contributed to Nezuko's unique ability to conquer the sun, though the exact mechanism was never fully explained in canon. Nezuko came from the Kamado family, who were descendants of Sumiyoshi, a close friend of Yoriichi Tsugikuni. The Kamado family had preserved the sun-breathing technique disguised as a ceremonial dance called the Hinokami Kagura for generations. Their connection to sun-breathing and their family's relationship with fire through charcoal making may have influenced Nezuko's physiology in ways that other demons never experienced. Additionally, Nezuko received a large concentration of Muzan's blood during the attack, possibly more than most demons typically survive. Another unique aspect of Nezuko was her refusal to consume human flesh. Unlike other demons who fed on humans to gain strength and recover from injuries, Nezuko substituted feeding with long periods of sleep. This unusual behavior set her apart from every other demon in existence. She also retained a significant portion of her humanity, remaining rational and aware most of the time. Her willpower allowed her to fight off her demonic instincts and even protect humans instead of attacking them. Tamayo, a demon doctor who studied Nezuko's blood samples, noted that Nezuko's blood was evolving at an alarming rate, faster than any demon she had ever studied. When Muzan learned through Hantengu's memories that Nezuko had conquered the sun, his 1,000-year search for the Blue Spider Lily suddenly became secondary. Nezuko represented everything he had been trying to achieve. She was, in his eyes, the perfect being he had been chasing. If Muzan could capture Nezuko and absorb her body using his biological absorption ability, he would gain her immunity to sunlight. This would finally make him truly immortal and invincible. He would no longer need the Blue Spider Lily. He would no longer have any weaknesses. Demons with sunlight immunity could operate freely day and night, hunting humans without limitation, and would be completely unstoppable. Muzan's plan was simple and ruthless. He needed to capture Nezuko, absorb her into his body, and take her ability for himself. This became his primary objective for the remainder of the series. He pursued Nezuko with greater intensity than he had shown for anything in centuries. The Demon King, who had been hiding in shadows for generations, suddenly became active and aggressive, willing to risk direct confrontation with the Demon Slayer Corps to obtain Nezuko. His desperation and excitement were palpable. After 1,000 years of searching and experimenting, the answer to his obsession was finally within reach. For the Demon Slayer Corps, Nezuko's new ability created both hope and danger. On one hand, Nezuko could now move freely during the day, making her more independent and useful in fights. She no longer needed to be carried in Tanjiro's sun-proof box. She could train and develop her skills during daytime hours. But on the other hand, she had become the most valuable target in the entire world. Every demon now had reason to pursue her, either to please Muzan or to potentially gain her power for themselves. The danger Nezuko faced increased dramatically. The stakes of the final conflict changed completely after Nezuko conquered the sun. If Muzan succeeded in capturing and absorbing her, he would become truly invincible. The Demon Slayer Corps would have no way to kill him. Sunlight was their ultimate weapon. the one guaranteed method of destroying any demon. If Muzan could walk in sunlight, humanity would have no defense against him. He could hunt down and eliminate every demon slayer during the day when they least expected it. He could operate without fear or limitation. The entire balance of power between demons and humans would shift irreversibly in Muzan's favor. This made protecting Nezuko the most critical mission the Demon Slayer Corps had ever faced. The Hashira training arc that followed the Swordsmith Village arc became even more important because every demon slayer needed to become strong enough to protect Nezuko from Muzan's inevitable attack. It wasn't a question of if Muzan would attack, but when. The Demon King's obsession with conquering the sun had finally found a target after 1,000 years of failure. Nezuko's achievement proved that conquering the sun was possible for demons. It wasn't just a myth or an impossible dream. A demon could evolve to withstand sunlight. This realization validated everything Muzan had believed for centuries. His experiments and his patience had been justified. The perfect being he imagined could exist. It just happened to be Tanjiro's sister instead of one of Muzan's own creations. The irony was bitter for the Demon King. After creating countless demons and experimenting for over 1,000 years, the demon who finally conquered the sun was one outside his control, one who actively fought against him. Nezuko's immunity to sunlight represented more than just a power upgrade. It symbolized hope for the demon slayers and terror for humanity if Muzan obtained it. It proved that demons weren't bound by absolute rules, that evolution was possible, that change could happen. But it also proved that Muzan's ultimate goal was achievable, that his vision of perfection could become reality. The race to either protect or capture Nezuko became the central conflict driving the series toward its final confrontation. In the end, Nezuko's conquest of the sun transformed her from a demon trying to regain her humanity into the most important piece on the battlefield. She became simultaneously the greatest hope and the greatest danger. Her survival in sunlight shattered 1,000 years of precedent and changed everything. Muzan called her his answer, his perfect being, the key to his immortality. The Demon Slayer Corps recognized her as someone who needed protection at all costs. And Tanjiro, her brother, found himself fighting not just to cure her, but to prevent the Demon King from stealing the extraordinary gift she had somehow developed. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, Tanjiro's forehead scar is actually an awakened Demon Slayer mark. Tanjiro's forehead scar is actually an awakened mark. Tanjiro Kamado's scar started as something simple. When he was a child, a hot kettle tipped over in his home. His younger brother Takeo was in danger. Tanjiro moved fast and pushed him out of the way. The boiling water splashed on his forehead instead. That accident left a burn mark on the upper left side of his forehead. The scar was light pink and looked like a small circular patch. It stayed that way for years. His family saw it every day. Nobody thought it was special. It was just a reminder of how Tanjiro protected his brother. When the story begins and Tanjiro joins the Demon Slayer Corps, the scar looks exactly the same. Light pink, circular, unremarkable. Just a burn from childhood. But something strange happened during his final selection exam. This was the brutal test all Demon Slayer trainees had to pass to join the Corps. They had to survive 7 days on a mountain filled with demons. Tanjiro fought a creature called the Hand Demon. This demon was massive and had killed many of the previous students. During the battle, the Hand Demon slammed Tanjiro into a tree. The impact hit him right where his scar was located. His forehead bled heavily. He needed bandages wrapped around his head for several episodes after that fight. When Tanjiro finally removed those bandages, something had changed. The scar was no longer light pink. It was now dark red, almost crimson. The shape had transformed too. Instead of a circular patch, it had become jagged and sharp-edged. The injury had reopened the old burn wound and changed how it looked. The scar was darker and larger than before. But this was not the Demon Slayer mark awakening. This was simply a wound getting worse after trauma. The scar had been damaged by the Hand Demon's attack and healed differently. It now looked more severe than the original childhood burn. The change was obvious to anyone paying attention. But this transformation was just physical damage to existing scar tissue, not the awakening of any special power. As Tanjiro continued fighting demons, the scar remained visible on his forehead. After major battles, it sometimes appeared more pronounced or inflamed. Whether these battles caused actual changes to the scar's shape or whether it was just the stress and damage from combat making it more noticeable is unclear. The story never explicitly confirms that specific fights before Gyutaro caused the scar to evolve. What matters is that the scar stayed dark red and jagged after the hand demon fight. It was a permanent reminder of that battle. But it was still just a scar at this point. The true awakening had not happened yet. The real transformation came in the Entertainment District arc. Tanjiro was fighting Gyutaro, who was upper rank 6 alongside his sister Daki. These two demons were far stronger than anything Tanjiro had fought before. Gyutaro was incredibly fast and used poison sickles that could kill with a single scratch. Tanjiro fought with everything he had. He pushed his body beyond its normal limits. His heart was pounding at extreme speeds. His body temperature skyrocketed from the intense physical strain. During the final moments of the battle, Tanjiro had Gyutaro pinned beneath him. He needed to cut through the demon's neck, but his blade was not strong enough. Gyutaro noticed something happening to Tanjiro's face. He looked shocked and disturbed. The scar on Tanjiro's forehead was changing right in front of him. The scar transformed into flame-shaped marks spreading across his forehead. This was not just his scar changing anymore. This was the awakening of the Demon Slayer mark. The mark gave Tanjiro an enormous boost in power. His strength increased dramatically. His speed became faster than before. His reflexes sharpened. He could finally cut through Gyutaro's neck and defeat him. This moment marked the first time Tanjiro fully awakened his Demon Slayer mark in combat. This was the true beginning of the mark's power. Everything before this was just the evolution of his childhood burn scar. The mark appeared again when he fought Hantengu in the Swordsmith Village arc. Each time he activated it, the flame patterns became more prominent and powerful. Eventually, after repeated activations and his mastery of sun breathing through continuous near-death battles, the mark became permanent. It no longer disappeared after battles ended. The flame pattern stayed on his forehead constantly. It grew even larger, stretching past his eyebrows. The design became identical to two other demon slayers from history. One was Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the strongest demon slayer who ever lived. The other was Kokushibo, who was Yoriichi's brother before he became a demon. All three of them had the same flame-shaped mark on their foreheads. This was not a coincidence. The mark was proof of a deeper connection. The Demon Slayer mark is not something most people are born with. It only appears on demon slayers who reach specific extreme conditions during battle. Their heart rate must go over 200 beats per minute. Their body temperature must exceed 39 degrees Celsius. These are conditions that would normally kill a person. Most people cannot survive their heart beating that fast or their body getting that hot. But demon slayers who do survive these conditions can awaken the mark. The key difference between those who awaken it and those who fail is simple survival. If you die from the strain, the mark never appears. If you survive, the mark manifests and grants incredible power. The mark provides several abilities. First, it massively increases physical strength. Demon slayers with the mark can overpower demons they previously could not hurt. Second, it increases speed and reflexes to superhuman levels. Movements become faster and sharper. Third, some users gain access to something called the Transparent World. This ability lets them see inside their opponent's body. They can watch blood flow through veins, see muscles contract, and predict movements before they happen. Fourth, the mark allows users to heat their Nichirin sword until it glows bright red. A red blade is much more effective against demons. It disrupts their regeneration and causes more damage than a normal blade. But there is a terrible cost to awakening the mark. According to historical records, every demon slayer who awakened the mark died before reaching the age of 25. The mark exchanges lifespan for power. Kokushibo, who understood the mark's effects from personal experience and centuries of observation as a demon, believed this happened because the extreme strain on the body shortened how long a person could live. The only exception was Yoriichi Tsugikuni. He was born with the mark and lived to be 85 years old. Nobody knows how he managed to avoid the curse. Some believe he was simply beyond normal human limitations. His body was different from everyone else's. Marks often awaken through a phenomenon called resonance. When one marked demon slayer fights alongside others, their mark can spread to those around them. During the Sengoku era, which was hundreds of years before Tanjiro's time, multiple demon slayers awakened marks because Yoriichi was fighting with them. His mark resonated with others and allowed them to awaken their own. The same thing happened in Tanjiro's generation. After Tanjiro awakened his mark, several Hashira awakened theirs during subsequent battles. Muichiro Tokito awakened his mark while fighting Gyoko. Mitsuri Kanroji awakened hers while fighting Hantengu. Both were fighting in life-threatening situations. Resonance appears to help the awakening process, though whether resonance is absolutely required or simply makes awakening easier is not completely clear. Some slayers may have awakened marks in isolation under extreme conditions. The most important detail about Tanjiro's mark is its connection to sun breathing. Sun breathing is the original breathing style. Every other breathing technique in the Demon Slayer core came from sun breathing. Water breathing, flame breathing, thunder breathing, all of them are branches that evolved from the original technique. Sun breathing was created by Yoriichi Tsugikuni. He was the first person to ever awaken the Demon Slayer mark and the first to use breathing techniques against demons. His abilities were so far beyond everyone else that he almost killed Muzan Kibutsuji, the original demon, by himself. Yoriichi saved a man named Sumiyoshi Kamado from a demon attack. Sumiyoshi was Tanjiro's ancestor. The two became close friends. Yoriichi spent time with the Kamado family and taught Sumiyoshi his sun breathing technique. Sumiyoshi memorized the forms by watching Yoriichi perform them. He recreated the technique as a ceremonial dance and passed it down through his family. The Kamado family performed this dance every year during winter as a ritual to honor the fire god. They called it the Hinokami Kagura. For generations, the Kamado family practiced this dance without knowing it was actually a combat breathing technique. They thought it was just a family tradition. Tanjiro's father, Tanjiro Kamado, was born with a mark on his forehead. It looked exactly like what Tanjiro's mark would eventually look like. Tanjiro was not a demon slayer. He was a frail man who suffered from illness his entire life, but he knew the Hinokami Kagura and practiced it throughout his life. He taught the dance to young Tanjiro. He told Tanjiro to make sure the dance and the special Hanafuda earrings got passed down to future generations without interruption. Tanjiro died from his illness before the story began. His mark appeared to be a birthmark rather than a demon slayer mark that awakened through combat. He never achieved the extreme physical conditions needed to activate a demon slayer mark. His body was too weak. He never experienced the 200 beats per minute heart rate or the 39 degrees Celsius body temperature in combat situations. His mark was simply a physical marking on his skin that he was born with. When Tanjiro received his burn scar as a child, it appeared in the exact same spot where his father's birthmark was located. This connection is significant but needs careful understanding. Tanjiro inherited the appearance of a mark on his forehead through his family lineage. The physical location and eventual flame-like shape matched his father's birthmark. But the actual Demon Slayer mark that grants power and awakens during battle follows strict physical conditions. It is not passed down genetically like hair color or eye shape. The burn scar Tanjiro had as a child was simply a burn injury. The Demon Slayer mark that awakened during the Gyutaro fight was activated through meeting the extreme survival conditions required. The fact that both appeared in the same location suggests a connection between his family's sun-breathing heritage and where the mark manifests, but the mark itself had to be awakened through combat strain, not inherited at birth. Shinjiro Rengoku, the father of the late flame Hashira Kyojuro Rengoku, was one of the few people who understood what marks like this meant. He sent Tanjiro a letter explaining that marks appearing on the forehead were connected to sun-breathing users. He said people with such marks were destined for greatness. Tanjiro initially did not understand. He explained in his response that his mark was just a burn scar from childhood that got worse after his injury during final selection. He did not realize at that time that his childhood scar would eventually become the location where his Demon Slayer mark awakened. He thought they were completely separate things, but Shinjiro recognized the significance. He understood that Tanjiro's potential and his family's connection to sun-breathing meant something important was developing. The pattern on Tanjiro's mark specifically resembles flames because of its connection to sun-breathing. Most demon slayers who awaken marks get patterns that reflect their breathing style in some way. Muichiro Tokito, who uses mist breathing, has marks that look like flowing mist patterns. Mitsuri Kanroji, who uses love breathing, has marks that match her unique style. But Tanjiro, along with Yoriichi and Kokushibo, has flame patterns. These patterns represent the sun itself. Fire and flames are the visual symbol of sun breathing. The mark shows on their skin a representation of what breathing technique they are connected to. The flames spread across Tanjiro's forehead in a distinct pattern that matches the legendary users of sun breathing from history. During his battle with Akaza, the upper rank 3 demon, Tanjiro accessed even more abilities through his mark. He remembered watching his father kill a massive bear years before his death. His father had entered a state called the selfless state. In this state, a person has no fighting spirit, no hatred, no killing intent. They become completely empty of emotion and aggression. This makes them invisible to demons who track opponents by sensing fighting spirit. Tanjiro achieved this state during his fight with Akaza. Combined with his Demon Slayer mark and his access to the transparent world, he became powerful enough to decapitate Akaza. This was an incredible achievement because upper-ranked demons are extremely difficult to kill. When Tanjiro eventually fought Muzan Kibutsuji himself, his mark became even more important. Muzan is the original demon who created all other demons. He is nearly impossible to kill. But Tanjiro's mark gave him the strength to fight alongside the Hashira against Muzan. The mark allowed him to keep fighting even when his body was broken and exhausted. It pushed his physical abilities beyond human limits. Without the mark, Tanjiro would never have been strong enough to participate in the final battle. The mark was proof that he had inherited the same power that nearly killed Muzan centuries ago when Yoriichi wielded it. The transformation of Tanjiro's scar tells the story of his growth as a demon slayer. It started as a simple burn from protecting his brother. The hand demon reopened that scar and changed its appearance, making it darker and more jagged. But this was not the mark awakening. The true Demon Slayer mark awakened later during the Gyutaro fight, when Tanjiro's body reached the extreme conditions required. The mark activated when he pushed himself to the absolute limit. And it became permanent through repeated activations and his mastery of sun breathing after countless near-death experiences. Each stage represented a milestone in Tanjiro's journey. The scar was never just a mark on his skin. It became a visual representation of his destiny, his heritage, and his connection to the most powerful breathing technique ever created. It showed that he was capable of reaching heights similar to the legendary Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the strongest demon slayer in history. But unlike his father's birthmark or his childhood burn scar, Tanjiro's Demon Slayer mark was earned through survival, combat, and pushing his body past every human limitation. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.